All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Delidze versus Hernandez, taking a look at UFC 319, Plessis versus Chimaev, talking a little bit about the UFC rights deal and a little bit about one championship. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the Ohio player, my good friend and co-host, Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
Dude, I'm here. I can't ask for much more. We had a Saturday, we had fights, we got big news broke on a Monday. So
Hey.
I'm ready to talk about everything and anything. And obviously we had fights on Friday that I'm going to get into just a smidge. So we'll sprinkle that in every now and then for you
Sure.
guys.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, right off the bat, of course, the biggest news of the day. Got to get into it, right? I mean, the
Right.
UFC rights deal. We've been kind of speculating on it. It was kind of funny in that regard. Just 3 days ago, I had put a video out about the basically what that how that all came together was because of the WWE rights deal, because WWE had announced that they were going to have part of their programming, their premium programming on ESPN for ESPN's new direct-to-consumer app that's going to be $30 a month, which is like, ooh, that was scary deal there. And I feel bad for WWE fans for that one. But I was kind of speculating, was that going to happen to the UFC because they're both TKO Holdings properties? And then not more than 3 days later, we are here and today and find out that Paramount Plus and Paramount, the parent company, has purchased the rights to the UFC broadcasting for all of their content, including the numbered events, premium events, all in one package, $7.7 billion. And all of it's going to be for the price of a subscription. I thought that this was a pretty amazing thing. I saw in the Discord immediately after that you were a little bit more skeptical. So what are your feelings on this, Chase?
I mean, as I settled down, I'm definitely okay with it. I wanted this all along. I wanted to have it on a streaming service because I had ESPN Plus and it came with a bundle from Hulu, and after every, prelims on a numbered event, it would go to pay-per-view. And it always made me question. It's like, man, actually I was grateful at the time. Like, wow, I got every event basically except pay-per-view main events, and then I got to go figure something out. But like at the time, like that was really nice. So what I'm getting now, I should be even more satisfied with the outcome, because like this is going to be even bigger and better. And as long as, listen, I don't really ask too much. Paramount, if you're listening right now, Skydance, is that what they're called? Mr. Skydance? I need you to understand that if you have full access to on-demand fights for Josh Van, you have made a customer out of me. I'm just saying. So
Sure. Well, I mean, to that point, the major criticisms that I've been hearing, and it did not address in the video that I put out about it this morning, is that people are saying that the Paramount Plus streaming service is not it's not reliable, is what I've been hearing. I hear that people are saying that there are buffering issues, there's infrastructure issues and things like that when it comes to the pre-existing version of the app already. So you add in a live component to that can go sideways pretty quickly. So there is some trepidation about that aspect of it that is understandable. However, I would hope, and what I was saying to those people is that I'm praying that with a $7.7 billion purchase, granted, that's not all at one time, but if you're spending $7.7 billion over the course of 7 years, so $1.1 billion a year, that would also come with some infrastructure improvements to make sure that you can handle live events. Because, we saw what happened with Netflix and the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. We've seen a couple of these other streamers who are not traditionally in the live sports space trying to get into that space and having some issues with handling the amount of users at any given time, buffering and breakup issues, disconnection issues, and things like that. You can't have that on the regular slate of events. You know, you might get away with that for a special event. You might get away with that with like the first event that you have if it's just growing pains. But, you know, if that's a fight night and then you're coming into a pay-per-view, you know, quote unquote, whatever, you know, you're going to call it. I don't even know what we call them now. I guess we just got to call them numbered events. But, you know, if
Which
you're
is
coming in,
ugly, by the way. I hate hearing it. It's so
yeah,
bad.
a premium event, I guess, is the other thing to call it. But that's also, you know, that sounds kind of, I don't know, it's weird to me to say
I
because
kind
it's
of like that though. That's what I call the WWE ones now. I'm like, oh, it's a
fair.
premium event, so like it's kind of it kind of stuck. I don't know.
I just think that with my feeling with that is that when you call it premium anything, it just sounds like salesman gimmicky kind of thing. You know, it's like you're getting a premium experience. Like, all right, you know.
So you want to talk about the premium thing? So we talked about. Well, I don't think we got it. Not necessarily on stream, of course. We talked about the ads. You know, there's an ad version and then there's an ad free. You know, the
Right.
premium gets the ad free, and rightfully assume like, well, you guys understand that you're just buying a different loading screen that you're gonna get. It's still gonna be the ESPN had the please wait while we do the thing and then we'll be back for whatever it said. I don't remember, but or you're going to get actual advertisements. You know, that's just the name of the game, in my opinion. But then I made the actual, I think there is going to be an extra layer to it because you think that the premium is going to get you the corner access and the walkouts. I don't believe so. The Excelsior package, that is what is going to get you the 32nd floor. You know, that is what's going to get you the bells and whistles. It's not just the premium. No, that's not good enough. You know, we have to pay just a smidge more. So give me your opinion on that, and then I have one more thing that I think is key to note.
Well, my opinion on that, it all goes back to the pricing of all of this. Because look, if we're talking about a with ads version that is $8 a month, we're talking about a premium. We're talking about the full package, at least as what they've announced so far, at $13 a month. If you want to jump that up to 17, 18, $20 a month for an additional layer, I'm still all in personally. I mean, like
Anything
that's
less than 30, because you were like,
oh
ooh.
gosh. Well, no, because that was the whole thing too. Is it's not only that it could have been 30, it was possibly going to be 30 for base, 30 for fight nights and then surrounding content and then still pay-per-view if they didn't go away from the pay-per-view model. This to me has been like I'm really still floored by the fact that this is even coming together the way that it is, because not only are we going away from pay-per-views altogether, but a lowering of the price as well. I mean, this is the most consumer friendly big business move that I've seen in very long time. Like it you don't see that from big business in general nowadays, like doing something that's actually good for the people that are consuming the product. You know, it's all about the bottom line for the company. And I understand, look, you know, I'm a capitalist like anybody else. I get it. But like at the same time, I'm also a consumer. So it's nice that I don't have to be shelling out more and you take the paywall away. So, you know, I think that's really the overarching point of all of this for me, is that like, we don't know exactly what it's all going to be. There's still the question about additional peripheral things like the Ultimate Fighter and the Contender series. Like there are still details that we need to find out. But if the baseline is $8 or $13 a month, I mean, anything else can get ironed out and wash out, and we'll figure it out. Like I'm already just happy off rip, and you know, anything else is going to be cake. And look, we'll figure that part out later.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. The last thing that I want to note is that this is the model that our buddies in the UK have been using for the past couple, however long. Like they've been watching it like this. It's not even been pay-per-views for them for probably months on end, you know? So we really are kind of late to the game here. It was really all about a dang money deal, you know? That's the craziest part. And I get it, you know, that's what it has to be. So 7.7 billion or whatever it was left somebody with 20 billion. Sorry, it was billion, not million. But either way, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, just to circle back, just to answer the question about like the
Yeah,
cornering and stuff, and like the packages or whatever. Like because Fight Pass has already had just the unfettered access to the feed. Like Fight Pass just gives you the raw feed, so you're just getting everything from what the cameras are seeing throughout the entirety of it with no cutaways. I would assume that that's what the $13 package is going to be. There have been people speculating that this is just like a bait. You know, they're reeling you in with this $13 and eventually it'll go up. Again, if that is what ends up happening, I still will be happier with that if the experience is clean. You know, if we're getting a good solid feed with no static, no breakups, no, you know, drops in quality, whatever. I mean, and that's a big if. Yes, I do
right.
understand. But you know, if that is the case, if you're giving a quality feed and the access to the programming, however they present it, is at a level that is still even on par with what we've been getting out of ESPN Plus. I will be happy with it.
Yeah.
I see very few downsides to this currently, unless the viewing experience is worse. But how could it really be worse than ESPN Plus?
I mean, I definitely agree with you, but at the same time, other than the fighting on demand thing, the fights on demand, I think that was the biggest miss on ESPN's part right there. But I think for the most part, me personally having the worst internet ever, I didn't really have the worst experience with the streaming on that end. It was always annoying with the commercials, and then you'd always be off. You wouldn't be live, and then you'd have to refresh. Like that was definitely annoying. But I assume that we're not gonna get some groundbreaking new streaming service. Like it's not gonna be. I don't know. Like I think it's still gonna be the same but different. So.
Yeah, and again, for a lower price, I'll accept that. I'll
You
be
know,
okay with that.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. But I think with ESPN, what they had going for them, what they had so many different opportunities where you could just get the package with something else, and I think that was a big draw for them. But Paramount, they probably have something like that. I'm sure there's like a T-Mobile deal that has like a Paramount deal with it, so maybe they can figure out more and better packages that will get the customer's attention. So I think
Well,
that's a really good thing.
yeah, to that point, shout out to Garrett from Checkmate MMA saying that you can bundle Paramount with Walmart's delivery service, or I forgot what it's called, but Walmart has like a package where they do like a delivery thing, and I guess you get some kind of discounts out of that. So
Genius, really.
yeah, so that's
You
why
gotta
I really said that back. I was like, man, that actually is like that's like legitimately great right there.
oh, they got to partner it with all like the like Costco, Sam's Club. You got to get like those large portion size because it's like a party thing, and you got to sell it on like getting the boys together and having a thing where everybody brings something.
Exactly. Or you get all your stuff in bulk, you watch your fights, you never have to
Yep.
leave the house. That sounds great to me.
Exactly, and it'll be delivered. If when Costco gets around to their delivery service, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting times with all that. We're still going to have to see what happens with those peripheral items like the Ultimate Fighter and the Contender Series and embedded and things like that. The stuff that is surrounding the core assets. But the core assets going over to Paramount, at least in this moment right here, right now, seems like a great thing. So, I was very happy about this today, and yeah, I mean, we're again, it's all evolving and it's all breaking news right now. It doesn't start until 2026, so January 2026, we will all make the switch over, and we're all just going to find out together how it all goes.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be there day one, but it is like kind of a farewell tour for ESPN. Like, it would be hilarious if they have the cleanest run experience for the rest of this, and they're like, "Yeah, we probably could have done that the entire time." But
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there was the speculation that they were throttling and doing all kinds of like weird back end stuff to kind of kick the UFC a little bit. So I don't know if it's true or not. But
it literally doesn't even make sense in my opinion for that to be true. Like ESPN is home of sports. Like why wouldn't like they need to play to their end because like having the ESPN on the sports network is like big. It's the home of the sports network. If ESPN doesn't have UFC and they only have PFL, then they're not the home of like the top tier sports anymore because UFC wouldn't be there. I think it's just interesting that they should have been catering to them because that makes them look better. I don't know.
yeah, well, that aspect of it was one thing that I did mention in the video where I was like, ESPN has been really trying to make these big power grabs for sports with the NFL and the NBA and a couple of the other surrounding sports and whatnot. They've already had NHL for a long time. So they really have been like trying to consolidate power in that regard. This, I think, is a really strong strategic move for something like a Paramount because it's like, we don't want to let you have like full monopoly over everything. And that in the big picture is better for the consumers as well. Because if you only have one outlet, they can do whatever they want.
Well, I think it should tell you how big of a leap this is for the company of Paramount Skydance or whatever. Their stock right now is like $11 a share. I mean, and they just took a partnership with, something that's the biggest global growing sport and, combat sport as of right now, whatever you want to say. Like, It's pretty big. It's going to be a good deal. If you want some insider information, there it is. Go to Paramount Skydance and get you some money in. I think it'll be a good payout in the next, what is it, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, 7 years
Yeah.
exactly. So we'll find out together come January. But for right now, pretty good news. So that's what's going on the UFC rights front. You want to talk about one a little bit?
Dude, I do. I actually got to watch one live this week, or last week, that is, and it was a very fun experience. Getting up, I was off work. I got to just sit back and enjoy some early morning fights. They have Friday night fights. It's Friday morning, and it was definitely fun. So I'll bring up two just because I'll make it quick.
Sure.
We got two fights from Myanmar, and one of them. They went 1 for 2 on the night, but I do want to bring up the performances because when we watched the documentary about Lethwey, that episode, there was a guy in there who's like one of their Hall of Famers kind of deal, and his name was Lone Chaw, and I was thinking, holy shit, Lone Chaw is actually fighting here soon. Like this is going to be cool. I can actually watch him live. This was not him. This was somebody who took inspiration from him though. So
Okay.
secondhand, I'm still watching. I'm still watching something.
Hey, got to learn from the greats, right?
But Cyan Lone Chaw just adopted the name. I guess you could just do that. I didn't
Oh,
know you. Yeah, you could just adopt the name. And then his opponent, Sanit, very very good. I mean, this guy was one of the better ones because he knocked out Lone Chaw in one of the most brutal ways. I mean, he had so many shots on the way down that he was getting, and then when he was down, he wasn't out, but he was just stuck in the knockout. Like it was just insanity. But I don't want to harp too much on it because it was a good performance from both. But either way, the main event obviously had my boy from Myanmar, and he had a great performance. We got Sanrak from Myanmar. Excuse me, I'll name them. My bad, thinker. Sanrak from Myanmar, and then we got Samigdame, excuse me, and from Thailand. And Sanrak 100% won this fight. And I just would like everybody to know that the stats won't tell you everything. And the story is going to be that he lost his main event. And I don't think that that was actually true. It was a great performance. And it was a lot of people tell me that I'm not going to get the judging right, obviously, and especially when it comes to Muay Thai. But I think I've done a pretty good job when it comes to what I've seen and what I predict to be the outcome. And I thought this one was 100% clear coat to my guy. And I think they robbed him, and it was unfortunate. So I just wanted to bring up those two. It was unfortunate that you didn't get to actually watch with me. We need to start making this a thing. Fridays mornings, one, and we can get on that. So I'm just saying.
no, I like it. Now that I know that you're doing it more consistently, I will
Well,
keep
if I'm
my.
off work, let's not talk too much,
Yeah, well,
guys.
so there you go, right? But
We might work late and we can get it going. So we'll obviously play it by ear, but I think it's something that we're going to try to keep up with. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I like it. I definitely do. I've been a big fan of the one product for a long time, and just don't get to see it all that much. So I'm glad that you're keeping up with it, and cool. Thanks for the update there.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
we'll do that a little more. Absolutely.
Right on. Well, I mean, talking about wonky judging definitely is a perfect segue into the UFC Fight Night Delidze versus Hernandez that we're here to talk about. So you want to jump into this a little bit? I would assume.
I am very excited, but first I want to go ahead and give a shout out to E Money J because he hopped in here right at the beginning of the goddamn stream and
Hell
he is a
yeah.
Chad for that. And then Andy, he wants to drop the Shama. So I want to actually talk about one little tidbit that I just sent you right before the stream. But before I do that, I got to go ahead and give my boy Leandro the biggest fucking shout because this is my guy right here and he's ready for a good podcast episode. So let us actually jump into what I found on Twitter just a little bit ago, and this was Alex Pajeda in full makeup and equipment and uniform and dust from the whatever environment he's supposed to be in this role. But yes, he is now going to be in a movie and he's playing quote unquote a villain.
Hmm.
And this is going to be interesting. And why I think it's interesting is because I've been telling Thinker that we have a new series that has just begun and there's only the beginning of it started because we are in the Hollywood superstar era. Everybody has to be in a movie once they're done with their career. Like, what else are you going to do to get residuals? So, people like Sugar Sean O'Malley, people like etc. I don't know anymore off the top of my head, but I think he's coming soon. But either way, Surreal Gone is definitely a pioneer. Conor McGregor, and now of course Alex Bajeda. So I would like for you to give your opinion on what you think of him playing a major film's villain.
I mean, fine, I guess. It's one of those things where I'm gonna have to see the role because it reminds me of when we found out that Shara Bullet was going to be a
Oh,
villain of
there's
some
another
sort.
one we still haven't got him as
That's
the
what I mean.
UPS driver.
I would say we've got plenty as far as that goes. Plus, I mean, you say they're pioneers, but like, I mean, Tito Ortiz and like those old school guys were in movies too. So I mean, like, we can go deep when it comes to the MMA fighters and film stuff.
I think no. I think what's different about them is like they were in the low level grunge. Like those are the OGs, of course, but like when it comes to the superstar era, like Conor McGregor had to be in a film, because he's that big of a star. Surreal
Right.
Gun in France had to be in a film. Like he had to be in a TV show, and then they were like, wow, he's pretty good. He has to be in an action movie because he's a UFC fighter. I think there's plenty more of examples that are gonna come about that. John Jones in the cage, like he
Sure.
had to be in something and he had to fucking glaze himself. I think being in a major movie, and GSP actually is also one because he was in the Marvel movies. So he understands that is what is a lasting thing for his career. And it back in the day, it wasn't looked at as like a career move. It was just like, oh, I'm going to be in a movie and make $200, like whatever the fuck it was. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really, when it comes to the film stuff, like, it's all about the quality of the actual film to me. I do understand what you're saying with like it's like a statusy kind of thing now too. I'll have to see what the product looks like. I mean, I'm certainly open to it. That I think, you want to talk about us having like plenty to review. Like, yeah, we're going to be working on the series for the rest of our lives if we go this deep.
Well, it's not even just about getting deep. It's like we're getting more current that UFC, specifically the UFC, is like a common name. It's a household thing because we have also this movie coming out called Mr. Nobody. Is that what it's called?
Just nobody. The Nobody 2 you're talking about that they've been
No, no, no.
advertising?
Liam Neeson.
Oh no, I don't know. Oh no,
Yes,
you're talking about the Naked Gun.
That's
Yeah,
what it's called.
Mr.
That's what
Nobody. Okay.
Okay, either way, I don't know. There's so many of these stupid movies coming out, but either way, Liam Neeson is in a movie called Naked Gun that apparently has UFC moments in it, and that Justin Gaethje is apparently in it. So it's not just we have to dive deep back into the realm of old things. It's like these are becoming things that are shoved into the face of like the consumer. So we're obviously going to get to do a lot of different things. If that's something that you are wanting to look into, then we have a very bright future in what we're about to do. We are going to be the pioneers. I tell
Y-
you this.
Absolutely. And to that point, just a little promo package here. Just be aware that the Smashing Machine review that we just did will be edited and put out on the channel sometime this week. So keep an eye out for that. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting out some community posts a little bit early ahead of the time that for whatever films we're going to be doing, letting you know what we're reviewing so that you're aware of it. You can watch it as well if you want to get caught up before the review comes out. And then also let us know in the comments what you think would be good for this series. If it's related to MMA in some way, we will certainly consider it. So be on top of the videos as they're coming out. Leave a comment and we will read all of them.
Yeah, 100%. Very excited to continue with this because I think it's going to be very valuable going forward. But either way, we have something of value to talk about with this Apex card. So without further ado, please, Thinker, get us into it.
Indeed. UFC Fight Night, Delidze versus Hernandez. This took place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, to start off, what did you think of this card overall?
To be fair, this card was this is an Apex card. I don't know why people shit on him so much. I mean, I get because nobody gets to see them because they're so good. That's what it is. Like they can't let the community have it because they know it'll be just too good. But either way, no. This one was just about as good as an Apex card can be after the first two fights. And
Bingo.
we'll talk about it. The first two fights did not do it for me, but everything else after that, I think fell in line for like it really I think it ended to be. We'll talk about it, but this definitely okay. No, it had some ups and downs, but it was definitely fine. I really enjoyed it.
No, I think yeah, and I think that what you're saying about it being an Apex card is absolutely correct. It really is like a down the line Apex card. It had its ups and downs. It had some really great moments. It had but this one was atrocious with some of the judging, and we'll definitely get into that. But like you know, that's the Apex for you. So like I'm happy with it. I you know, every time that we have these Apex cards, especially this one, for some reason on the watch along, I came in a little bit like a little negative Nelly a little bit. I was like, you know, on paper, this one's not so great, whatever. And then it turned out to be just another roller coaster ride of an Apex card. And I was very happy with it in the end.
I feel like what sucks about this is the people who won. I mean, we'll talk about it. Maybe I'll change my mind because I'm not going to spoil it. I'll be surprised if I remember something. But you know, after what I saw, I kind of I just kind of threw it in the back burner. I didn't really look. I wasn't like coming into Monday like, oh man, I have really a lot to talk about. Like what's coming next for these guys. It's like they kind of all really did what I expected them to. We'll talk about the main event, of course, but you know that had some lasting effect, yes. But everything else, I feel kind of was just down the line what was gonna happen, in my opinion. So I don't really think there was too much expectations kind of thrown off, in my opinion. Like sometimes I come in here and I'm like, well, fuck, guys, I don't know, I just lost it. But this one, I think I did pretty good. Like this was pretty fun because I was doing good, other than the damn judging, dude. And we are gonna talk about
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, let's you know, without further ado, get into some of these actual fights here. Starting things off, Cody Brundage versus Eric McConico. This was a short notice fight for both of these gentlemen. What did you think of this one?
One, because you made the point. You made the point up front. It's like, and I even said this late too. I was like, both of these guys are short notice. Like, why would they put them on this card? Like, why wouldn't they just not give two short notice guys about, like, you know, like maybe give them a chance? Like, and of course, it's two people that maybe are never going to get to the bell in their career. So it's like, who even cares if they have a camp? But I don't think we've ever seen, and I know we say this so often, but dude, these were one of the worst light heavyweights at the time that we have seen, because this was really bad. This was a horrible performance. Eric McConico did fine later in the fight, but you know he was way too late. He actually had Jared Cannonier in his corner at the time, and was very cool to see Jared like coaching him, and he was doing good. But Eric is just like wasn't able to do a lot of the things that he was wanting him to do. And you know, Cody Brundage didn't do a lot of anything other than make us wonder if he's ever looked good. I like it's genuinely concerning that Cody Brundage got a 30-27 in this fight because he didn't do anything.
I take some.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I take a little bit of a little issue with that. I think that Brundage is actually a pretty tough, brawly kind of guy
I
once he
agree with
opens
that.
up. You know, I mean, like
I
that's the
didn't say
thing.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Well, you
just
said he
said
didn't
that.
do anything though,
No,
so I
no,
mean,
no.
you got to give him some credit. He did a
No,
little.
no. Okay, he didn't do anything when it comes to utilizing any skill set. If you want to say he's a tough guy, I will agree with that point. He's a tough, brawly kind of guy, but he's not very good at that. So continue with your point. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that he did a good job of controlling when like he did a good job of opening up and then going back to control. That I thought was what I gave him a little bit of credit for here. Cause so like starting this thing off, McConico drops Brundage with the first shot. That was, you know, always fun to see. It's like, oh good Lord, this is gonna be another Cody Brundage weird fight. You know, that's they even said that on the commentary, like, oh, you know, he's got some quirky you know, elements to his fights. It's like, yeah, that's a bit of a fucking understatement. But so yeah, he immediately gets dropped. He level changes. He holds on to him for a while. So it's like, okay, you know, I mean, smart recovery at the very least there. Tyone, the referee, was pretty quick to break them up in the clinch. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if that's just
He should have
something that
kept it up too.
yeah, well, and that's the thing is that it's like I was like, oh, is this like going to be like a new trend of them like breaking it up sooner? But like it's not consistently applied, and that's what's annoying to me about that. But anyway, Brundage goes cross cage for the double leg. Turns up the striking at the end of the round. It was a close first round between the in that regard. They turned up in round two. This is where round two actually was like where this fight actually got a little interesting because McConico had the close range elbow, and Brundage had like a couple of heavy slugging shots. So he ends up taking him down. Round 2 was one of the better rounds we've seen out of Brundage, I think, actually. And that's where I was saying, he's kind of tough when he actually like opens up. It's just sometimes he doesn't seem to do that until it's too late. But
there is a point to make about that. You said
yeah.
that is probably the best round 2 you've ever seen of him. Dude, he has an average fight time of 2 minutes. There is a reason that is the best second round that you have seen from him. That's why this fight
Yeah.
is so crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like the reason that he went to decision, is something unbehold of me because that he never does. He's a 2-minute fight kind of guy. That's just what he is. Continue. Sorry. I just had to interject that.
Yeah, I mean, but there were like flecks of the Mansour Abdul Malik fight, in there when like they opened up, because like the two of them like were slugging for a little minute there. So it's like you put Cody Brundage in the position where he's got to start swinging, he will start swinging. So it's at least I give him credit for that. Watching round 3 back, McConaughey had better volume, but Brundage landed a few power shots that looked heavier. One of them looked like they stung Ersk for a moment at least. So split decision with the judging made absolutely no sense on this one. This is like that. Like this was one of the worst decisions as far as the split goes that I've seen in quite some time, because I actually put this in the notes because of how bad the calls were across the board. So Cartledge scores rounds 1 and 2 for McConaughey, round 3 for Brundage. That's just insane. Like McConaughey, like taking round 3. But like 1 and 2 going to Brundage or to McConaughey is definitely not correct. Lee with the 30-27 to Brundage, very crazy as well. And then Weeks, round 1 for Brundage, round 2 and 3 for McConaughey. If you count the drop as damage for the first round, you can give that to McConaughey. Then rounds 1 and 3 are for McConaughey, makes sense. But like, how big do you factor in flash knockdowns, I guess, is the question there. So none of these guys got it right is what I'm trying to get at with all of that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a few, definitely. But yeah, no, this one was absolutely insanity. I mean, I'm glad Ersk won because I mean he should have. This fight was ridiculously not supposed to go to decision because these guys should have been swinging a lot more for what it was. Like they were very tentative at the beginning, and then after the second round, they had a flurry, sure, but then they went back to being a little tentative, and then Cody grappling and just doing nothing, and it could have been a little more. I think the UFC was hoping on short notice that this obviously was going to be some barn burner in the first round. Didn't end up being that. I thought Jared in the cornering was. I thought that was the highlight of this one. I was like, man, that was a good. That was cool to see him. I did the. Hey, I know him. So shout out to him. But I also thought was weird about this. I want to know is the weights, right? This was a light heavyweight bout, right? It wasn't a catch weight to know. Cody Brundage weighed in at 202. Okay, sure. Just do whatever you want. I don't know. I mean, you can just have a disadvantage. I don't care. Whatever. Not my business.
Yeah. I want to say that there was somebody else who weighed in like lower than the needed, like the weight, but I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. But yeah, again, short notice, I mean, there's maybe not as much time to do the full like nutrition based bulking / cutting sort of thing. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, this is, yet another Cody Brundage fight that is kind of interesting more than great entertainment, I would say.
Yeah, no, this one was hard to watch, and we'll talk about the next one. So I'm ready.
Fair. Yeah, I guess we can leave this one there. The big takeaway for me was that the judging was atrocious, and this started off a trend of very bad judging on this card. Next one I thought was in that same camp. Yeah, no,
actually, yeah, no, the thing I wanted to note about the judging too is like it's bad and it's gotten bad when they have a graphic made. Like it's not just like, oh, they show the judges scoring after it. Like that's like where we're at now. But the fact that a graphic had to be made and it had to be thrown up on the board quick so the fans could see like what the judges scored. Like somebody's job is to go get that paperwork and to like tell you to all right, they got a 3, and then they got to type it in and then they got to put it on the screen. Like that's how you know that we've gotten to a point that it is bad because they are on the ready to let us know how bad it is.
Oh yeah, No, I've always said that. Anytime that you see the scorecards on screen, you know some fuckery has taken place.
It's not just that though. It's the fact that the company and the promotion has taken the time out of their day to make graphics for it. Like you got to
Sure.
think about the steps way back for how bad it is. But I digress.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're at the ready, knowing that the judging is
Yeah,
potentially going to go sideways. So it's always, yeah, it's always in the back pocket, so to speak.
facts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This next fight, I kind of felt similar about, to an extent at least. Gabriela Fernandez versus Yulia Stoliarenko. That one note that I wanted to start off with, you mentioned Lethway coming into this thing. I did not realize that Stoliarenko was a former Lethway champion herself. And then very hilarious to hear DC having no clue what Lethway is as a high level combat sports commentator.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that is hilarious. He has commentated Josh Van fighting like 4 different times, and he still does not know that Myanmar is a place on this earth. Because yeah, Stoliarenko coming in at a Lethway champion. By the way, go ahead and scroll up on the page real quick
Oh,
so I can see
yes,
her
thank you.
stats.
Appreciate that.
And she came in as a former Lethway champion, which I thought was going to be crazy because, I'm coming into this new epiphany that new other combat sports exist, and Lethway is one on this earth. And Julia, wow, she has an extra J in there. I just noticed that. Stoliarenko came coming in, Lethway champion. I thought she was going to be very impressive, and she did show a lot of heart. Like she looked like somebody who could be in a sport where they got headbutted. So I tell you, she looked impressive in that end, and she was walking her down the entire time. I thought Fernandez. This performance, unfortunately, was boring because Fernandez was so passive and she busted Stoliarenko up. But this is somebody again who comes from a sport where she uses her head as a weapon, so she probably is going to bleed a lot easier. So I didn't really take that into consideration because once they told me that, like that was conclusive evidence in my mind. Like when you talk about people like Nate Diaz, it's like, well, he's just got scar tissue. He's gonna bleed either way. It's like, well, she probably is just gonna bleed. It's not like she was getting whooped. It's not like she was getting wobbled. Like it
Well, and
was
also the
whatever.
the the shot that opened her up was a grazing shot from the glove cutting her, as far as I saw. I mean, it wasn't like she got like rock, because even DC was all over the place with this commentary today. This was one of the worst DC days as far as commentary goes. But he had said that he was like, oh, because when the cut had opened up, I think it was Gooden who was like, oh, something opened up Stoliarenko, and DC was like, oh, elbows, and it's like, no, it was not elbows. They showed the replay. They had the isolation cam, and
Yeah.
it was just a grazing shot that like it was the glove clipped her. So I was like, that sucked, because you're definitely right. Yeah, she was bleeding a lot. So the Lethway background does lend itself to that, and it all kind of makes sense if you know all of that. But like optically for the judges, just seeing a whole bunch of blood, it's like that sucks, because it wasn't a power shot that did it. It was just a grazing shot that happened to do it. And I really think that like optics in this fight were a lot of the story, because like what we were saying on the watch along is that Fernandez is definitely the technically more proficient fighter out of the two of them. Like she was keeping on the outside, she was kicking a whole lot. Her form is really good. That's one note for Fernandez that I will give some credit to. Like as far as technically sound fighters go, she really can throw a kick very like proficiently. She's very efficient and economical with her striking, but like that should not in and of itself win you the fight. Like who is actually going out there and trying to make damage happen? And I think Stoliarenko was definitely doing that. Like she was, like you said, she was walking her down. Fernandez was so active on her feet in like an evasive way. Very little output in this fight. I was not super happy with Fernandez in this fight. Like as far as like the entire package goes.
Well, because when people were talking about the performance that she had against Wang Tong and she finished her, that was very impressive at the time. But I remember having the thought process before this fight actually started. And I was like, Gabriella isn't somebody who hunts a finish like in the open mat. She has to, Wang Tong really went for her, and she had to just, defensively, instinctually go for, the kill. And she did get it, but I didn't think Julia was gonna get her on the ropes enough to have her in the position where she had to like, really fight for it. And I think I was right in that situation because Gabriella really just danced her way on the outside and didn't let that situation come. And yeah, it granted a 30-27 to one judge, but in my opinion, it just was not the performance that I was watching it and I'm like, God, I'm like, oh God, this needs to like hurry up because they're gonna do this the whole time. Like nothing's gonna amount to what I'm seeing here. And which is unfortunate because Fernandez, she packs some power in her punches, but she's just not like utilizing it in the way where she can just step forward, stand, and just bang. She's always on the back foot, and it's just unfortunate because she really could be a little, not terribly great, but she's just not the prospect that she needs to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, now she's on a 3-fight win streak with this one Stoliarenko on a multi-fight losing streak. Now she might end up getting cut off of this, and I think that sucks because I really do think that Stoliarenko like puts it on the line. Like she was trying to go
Yeah.
after it, and I really do believe that the cut on the eye was like optically a big factor in this fight when it really shouldn't have been as much.
Yeah.
I mean, like that third round, there was barely any output from Fernandez. Like at least Julia was trying. Fernandez whiffed on 80% of what she threw in that round. I mean, like she was just so far on the outside that it was like it looked better. Again, she's like her form is very good. So she looks like the better fighter out of the two, but like that should not be enough to win you the fight at all. If it's going off of damage, who actually did the damage? And you can't tell me that a cosmetic cut over the eye should be the deciding factor there. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I would sit here and argue and say that, these are the exact arguments that I swear I've had about multiple fighters on this roster that
And
you've defended
I
me.
knew you were
Okay.
going to say that, but my thing is that Stoliarenko was actually going for it. She was actually trying to find her. And so yeah, I mean, granted, you can say that it was like see, and the difference too is that Fernandez, like those other fighters, at least when they're on the outside, if they're landing the shots, that's why I brought that up with the 80% of the whiffed shots in the third round. Like she wasn't actually landing the shots from the outside. Like
Hmm.
she just looked better and took a little bit less damage in optic terms.
Yeah,
So,
no.
that would be the difference in my opinion. And I look, it's a debate. I mean,
Yeah, I
obviously, I'm
get
not
you.
gonna, it's debatable. But I gave rounds 1 and 3 to Stoliarenko. I thought that this was at least a petty theft.
The judging I'm not really worried about because I could probably say that Gabriella won, but it's only because she was so passive and so defensive, and she did make her bleed. Damage is something that has to be scored. Um, but I don't think it would be crazy to say the Solyarenko won. I think 30-27 is crazy, and Fernandez just didn't look as impressive as she should have. And for a prospect, I just know there's hotter ones out there. So
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of that. And at the end of the day, I do understand, like intellectually, I understand why the blood makes the difference. You know what
yeah,
I mean? I get that, but it's just it sucks when the circumstances are not taken into consideration, I guess is what I'm trying to say with that.
no, I 100% agree.
All right. So, Fernandez gets the win. She continues her win streak.
You intro this fight. I'm gonna run to the restroom, but I have so much to say about this one. So please let me.
All right. Yet again, chat, you know what to do. Mr. Parton over here went to the bathroom 5 minutes before the stream started. We're only an hour in. We're not even an hour in. Anyway, well, let's intro this fight, though. This is Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina. Of course, what I had said coming into this, Chase had said that we got a lot of these right. This was certainly one that I felt very happy in my prediction about because I had said that Uros Medic is a kill or be killed fighter, and this really exemplified that in a big way. I mean, Chase is obviously going to have a lot to say, he said, but from my side of things, I thought that this fight really exemplifies Uros Medic to a T because he comes in, gets dropped from the first punch, little flash knockdown there. Medic is definitely chinny. I mean, that's just something that like we all have to understand because that's where the kill or be killed comes from. Either he lands and he knocks you out, or he gets landed on and potentially gets knocked out himself. But he ends up getting back out of that, able to work his way back into this fight. Urbina, this is one of the few times, this is a rare instance where engaging on the ground probably would have been the smarter move for Urbina. But Urbina does what generally I would say is the right thing and says, or lets Medic get back to his feet. Medic is kind of up kicking. He lets him get back to his feet. Medic does that. He kicks, doesn't look foggy at all after that, and then lands the straight left, the knee, and another straight left. So there you go. So yeah,
Dude,
what I was saying was that this is I felt pretty confident. Well, see, that's the thing. The fight, you picked a bad one to go for because there's not much to, as far as the dynamics of this fight go.
Yeah.
But what I was saying was that this is this I felt happy with my prediction in this one because this really exemplified the killer be killed for Medic.
Dude, okay, yeah, no. Well, I could have went for the normal piss break on the women's match, but I wanted to give some respect, and I thought I'd be a little quicker. So I apologize, to
You're
everybody
good.
out
No,
there.
no, no,
But
no.
no,
You're fine.
seriously,
You're fine.
this fight here was hilarious because I think "killer be killed" is really what this dude stands for, and I'm glad you brought it up. But this is unfortunately the perfect iteration of what that means. Is that means you can walk out there and get chinned immediately. Literally, no, like it was hilarious. Like, when you talk about dodgy chins, I mean, it literally is this guy right here because the softest touch just makes him fold to the mat, right? Which is hilarious. But Medic and I was betting Medic knockout. Like that was my move right there because I know this dude is a fucking puncher. And I'm not really the guy who knows that he's never seen a decision because I'm not one of those people who looks too far into it. I know he's a killer. I know he punches. Bang, bang, boom. He'll knock somebody out who gets knocked out. It's not really rocket science here. But the fact that he comes in here and gets dropped right away is hilarious. But then gets up and puts on what I knew he was able to do. It's just crazy to me that some people have to be punched in the face for them to realize they're in the fight, And frankly, that does make sense. That is kind of how it goes. But he came out here and flatlined, bro, after he got torched on the mat, and then he gets up, knees him in the face, like you had mentioned, and then flatlines him, and then gives him an extra. What was funny about the extra punch is it was just like a little boop. Like it was really funny. It was powerful, but it was just the way he did it. He just like booped him and walked off, and then he
Yeah,
hit him
it
with
was
this little
it
shrug.
was like he was like in motion, it was just kind of like, bomb,
Yeah,
like kept going. But yeah, no, what I had said too is that Urbina, like this is one of the rare instances where engaging on the ground would have been probably the smart. I mean, in hindsight, you can say it, of course,
right.
but
Yes.
I mean, and so I'm not. This is not going to change how I feel about like letting people stand back up. I do think that was the right thing to do, but like unfortunately for Urbina, it ended up being something that didn't go his way. But yeah, no, this was a pretty crazy one in that regard because Medic is chinny. You have to know that like it's like he reminds me of Terrence McKinney in that regard. It's where it's like you're gonna get a fireworks show for one round and it could go either way.
See, and this is, what sucks is like, and maybe I just had an epiphany. Is like, these are the people you should just 100% never bet on. Like, because I bet Medic knockout, but like, bro, in 8 times out of 10, like he would have just been flatlined off a simple punch and the ref would have dove to save his life or something, Like, I took a chance and, sometimes you got to go for it, but like, this maybe wasn't the risk that it should have been. Like Medic, dude, he makes you sweat too much. Like against it, who even is Gilbert Urbina? Like he just made me sweat so much over somebody I've never heard of. Like
Yeah, well, I mean that's the true definition of a gamble here. I mean that's Uros Medic is right there in the dictionary. If you look up a 100% gamble, because it is straight up 50-50. But he came out on top this time. I mean the left that he has is pretty significant, obviously, because it was the same punch twice. He landed the straight left one time, went for a knee, and then it was another straight left. So obviously that left hand is pretty powerful.
no, dude, he's a beast. I've liked him. And then he unfortunately got matched up with Mictabek and got his head ripped off his shoulders. But he's somebody who's fun to watch. But man, is he not the dude you want to gamble on? Like if somebody's picking the cards, I'll specifically say, do not bet on this guy because
Yeah.
he's not the one. And I don't know, man. It's just hard to say.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about a lady later on who have a whole, I basically have coined a term based on her for not being someone you bet on. But, I guess for different reasons, you can put Medic in that camp. But the only other thing that I had for this fight was I liked his post-fight speech saying, if an opportunity presents itself, you should take it. And what I said on the watch along is that is exactly why no one should be out here trying to clown on Hyun-Sung Park. I mean, like Park went into a fight that he was clearly outmatched in against Tyra last week. And, you got to take those chances because that's how the sport works. If they call you for something that big, you go for it. And,
Mhm.
so I liked Medic saying that. interesting coming from him specifically, but obviously in this moment it worked out. So, so we'll see if maybe he ends up getting, that big call at some point and see how that goes. But no, I just liked what he had said.
No, 100% agree.
So yeah, that was pretty much it.
I
Congratulations.
would like to say
Mhm.
this was the beginning of where the card got really really good. Like
Yeah.
this was really really a fun moment, and the next one I think is where it starts to heat up. So
Yes. Well, let's get into this one because I got a lot to say about this one. So this is Jocelyn Edwards versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Now, to start this thing off, I have been a hater. I've been very vocal about Jocelyn Edwards not being a fighter that I have had much faith in. I've never thought that she was all that skilled. This is the exact thing that you do to change my mind right here. I said it on the watch along and I say it right here that a performance like this, getting a knockout in this way, is the exact thing that not only shows that there is a progression in the fighter, but that there are probably factors that maybe had not been fully expressed in some of the earlier fights that now might be able to be showcased a little bit more. And the power in her hands is certainly one of them, I would say. So for me, I take 100% accountability for having been a hater before. This is how you change my mind. And I'm very happy that Jocelyn Edwards was able to do that. Now, all of that being said, though, Priscilla Cachoeira with the hands firmly by her hips most of this fight while she was getting punched in the face lends itself to being knocked out. I'm not going to take it away from Edwards because she had to have the power to do it. I'm just saying we have to keep it all in context. Edwards gets all of the praise for this one, and she's making more of a fan out of me than I ever have been in the past.
yeah, I would like to say that I was very confident in this call. I was like, she's finishing. She's really on her streak right now, Jocelyn Edwards, and she's up against somebody who is the kill or be killed type of fighter. Her nickname is the Zombie Girl. But one of these days, the zombie's gonna have to fall. And I thought this was gonna be a really good performance from Jocelyn. If you were a true hater, I actually would have expected you to say, Priscilla Cachoeira is an unranked opponent. I mean, like, are you?
No, what I would say is that no, I mean Priscilla Cachoeira is coming off of a knockout of her own. I think that's even more impressive, honestly, because you can tell that she's going to go out there and like if she can get her hands on you, then there's going to be problems. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that this is even more impressive for that reason.
Okay, I can maybe agree with that. I think Jocelyn Edwards surprised me with her lack of ability to get the takedown as easily as I thought she would have. Priscilla is somebody who you just get her down and just rip her head off. She's not somebody you want to stand and strike with. And Jocelyn knew that. That's why she looked very tentative in her striking at first. Even with the combination that she landed, I mean, she was very defensive in her striking and she just threw some bombs and they landed. I'll give it to her. She knew what she was doing. And Cachoeira, she ate these shots and fell over. It was honestly hilarious the way that it happened because it was just her, it was really on the button, and her body just kind of just stopped working the way she wanted it to.
Well, I mean, Edwards keeps landing left hooks and Priscilla just will not raise her damn hands. It's like she completely forgets that she has to guard her chin. Like she was not respecting Edwards' power, and I kind of get that because I don't think that we've necessarily seen the full extent of her power like this before. Like she has landed shots. She certainly has a kickboxy kind of style. She gets clinched up occasionally, whatever, maybe some elbows in there sometimes, but we have not seen her with a full open range of the ability to just consistently land on the chin over and over again with the hands down by the sides like Cachoeira was doing. So, I mean, a basic combo put Cachoeira out, like the eyes open going down, lights on, no one's home kind of thing. So, I mean, it's sort of understandable that it went down that way, but I mean, you got to know what you got to be a responsible fighter in there for your own sake.
Yeah, no. So Jocelyn knocking her out was very impressive. I knew it was coming, but when I called it, I still thought like there's still more here. I thought you would have looked more impressive in the way that you did it. And not everything goes to plan, but I think there's still things to work on. If you weren't able to get her down, I know you were shooting from distance and you weren't able to get inside and get creative because she was trying to be on, she was on the outside, hands down, ready to strike, but she obviously got caught. So good on Jocelyn. I think very impressive. And obviously, you're still my girl. 3-fight win streak. I mean, I knew it was coming, to be honest with you. And I'm one of those people that I don't gloat too much. But Jocelyn Edwards, I've been high on her for a minute. I hope the record stays. I hope that's stands. So
Well, I mean, yeah, she certainly is impressing me more than she ever has in the past. The only other note that I had was that even in this very short fight, 2 minutes 24 seconds in, this thing ends. Even in that amount of time, Cachoeira was still able to get an eye poke in there. So keeping the dirtiness alive was pretty much it was a kind of a foregone conclusion that some dirty shit was going to happen from Cachoeira. So I'm glad that she was able to do what she does best within that small amount of time. But that one did look unintentional. So I'm not going to be like too angry at it. But either way, it was just kind of funny that it's like even in the first round of a knockout performance, there still had to be some dirtball element for Cachoeira.
yeah, no, we got to make her rounds, man. She's got to get her licks in. She's got to keep it formal. So I appreciate that.
Exactly.
No curveballs from Priscilla. So.
Right, exactly. You know exactly what you're getting. So, yeah, no, but shout out to Jocelyn Edwards on this one. Like I said, I've been very critical of her in the past. These are the exact type of performances that will make me change my mind, and I like to change my mind. I'm not so locked into my opinions about any one fighter that a performance like this can't change my mind. This is what you should do. You should go out there and silence the haters, and that's what you did. So,
Yeah,
congratulations.
this one was definitely good. One last thing I actually
Yeah.
want to say, because this is maybe one of the only ones that I think a going forward talk is worth having,
Uh-huh.
because she already faced and lost to Eileen Perez. So who would be next? I mean, she probably shouldn't have even been fighting down in the first place. I know Priscilla just came off of a knockout, but she's on a 2-fight win streak and she's ranked 13th. I mean, why should she have to fight Priscilla? She could have fought anybody up, but excuse me, she didn't. So I think going up is the only way, the only thing that I see possible. Maybe like a Carol Rosa kind of deal. I don't know. That's
I could
just
see
my
that. Yeah,
opinion.
sure. Absolutely. I mean, now that that Carol's starting to come back into her own a little bit, she's going to be able to hold her own at least on the ground if it goes there. So
Right.
I'd be okay with that fight. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the same point that anytime you are a woman with knockout power, you instantly put yourself into a different class and a different category. So Jocelyn Edwards being in that class now in that category, then there's a lot of potential there for different matchups. So if it is someone like Carol Hosa or a like an Irene Aldana type person, I'm okay with all of that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I
All right.
just didn't like that last name that you brought up. Like, dude, let's get her out of there. Bring up somebody else.
Irene?
Yeah, just come on. We
Oh
haven't seen her since the Sphere, haven't we?
no. Well, I mean, her forehead's still healing, I would think.
I'm sure she looks very beautiful.
And I mean, she talk about toughness, but that's a
Different story.
yeah, exactly. But either way, someone of that
Talk
kind of
about
fighter.
toughness, and we'll get into this fight right here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. Let's talk about it because this was some wildness here. Elijah Smith versus Toshiomi Kazama. So to start this thing off, I want to say, to my point, going from last week into this, Kazama had the right instincts, I would say. Smith jumps the knee at the beginning of the fight. Kazama turns it into a takedown. He was doing a number of things correctly given the circumstances. However, Elijah Smith is just a savage. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to be technically proficient against a guy who's coming into the fight like a bat out of hell the way that Elijah Smith was, because he was so dominant from the beginning of this thing. And really, like, one of my notes coming into this as well on the Smith side was that he gets a little wild. He gets a little bit untamed, I would say, in some of his earlier fights, or at least he had been. I thought that this was a much more measured utilization of his tenacity. Like, he went into this fight like with all of the same intensity that he has, but he wasn't as risk takey as much as he was, I'm going to be intense in every counter action of what you're doing, which Kazama was trying to do a lot of leg locks. He was trying to get it to the ground. He was really trying to draw Smith into a grappling exchange, and Smith navigated all of that while keeping his intensity. And then of course we can talk about the ending. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think this. One thing I'll say is that I bet Elijah Smith to win by decision. I thought, he's a decision merchant kind of guy. He's not going to have the power to knock somebody out, which still stands to be true. And we'll obviously talk about that here in a second. But I can't tell you a more worse fight than to bet decision, because these dudes came out like the most finishing dudes ever. Like they wanted to fucking kill each other. And they get right into the grappling, and we get on the ground, and Elijah Smith is getting some good sequences, and I'm coping really hard. Like, oh no, they're gonna get to the bell. He's gonna somehow grapple enough that we don't get a finish. He's just not gonna get finished. And then of course we get, and this is what's nuts about the finish, is like when you see it happen, it's not, I don't know if you had the same reaction as me. You might have been in the moment like a but no, like I was like, oh yeah, he's up there. Well, he's definitely done for. Like there's no chance he's coming back from that. Like you could tell, like it was done. There was, and that was before it even landed the slam. Like the amount of height that Elijah Smith was able to gain, he got on his tippy toes and then slammed him. Is when it was coming down, it was kind of in a slow motion, because you could have a whole thought in that moment. That's how crazy humans are. You can have a whole thought in just like a millisecond, because you're just like, yeah, he is fucked. And that is exactly what had happened, because you see him just laying there crucified, just like on the mat for. It's crazy how many times the camera cuts to different angles and you see his legs or just like his arms sprawled out. Like he was definitely dead for minutes on end. But in the same sense, I'm not trying to be I am hyperbolic trying to be, but he was breathing immediately. Like you knew he wasn't dead as soon as like he was dropped on his head. Like he was breathing, so it was kind of. I'm not trying to say it was funny, but like, bro, he got fucked up. Like,
I mean, like I forget when it was that we were talking about it. Oh, I think it was when we were talking about Rodolfo Bellato and his little acting performance, when you were saying how like there's that shallow breathing when someone's knocked out. He was doing that pretty instantly. I
yeah.
mean, it was that like sleep kind of, slow in out sort of, shallow breathing. Yeah, I mean, this was a slam from hell. This was Rampage Jackson reborn. Smith was even shouting him out and all of that on the on the broadcast.
Isn't that so cringe?
Nah, I mean, not really. I mean, it's like shout out to the legend, because that was what Rampage was known for.
So it's like a Kobe. It's like a
yeah, okay, I could see that a little bit being it's maybe kind of goofy, but I don't know. I thought, look, when you do that, you have the right to be a little cringe afterwards. You know what I mean? You kind of get away with it, I would say.
If I do a spin kick and say Muslim Salikov after the fight, like would I be cool? Like I mean, for real. Like I don't know. It was a little cringe in my opinion. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Fair, but I would like if someone would do that though. That would be yeah, Muslim. Anyway, no. So I mean, Smith slams Kazama through the mat. I mean, he slammed him into the depths of the earth, like stone flying from either sides. And it was funny, you mentioned the camera angles. Like when the initial shot of it was kind of hard to see like the exact impact or whatever, but when you see it full on from the side, like he had the hand on the chin driving the head downward as well. So I mean, like you're talking about like being able to like know that like he was out. I mean, I might not have had that in the moment just because of like the way the initial angle was, but when you saw the replay, it was like, yeah, that was the most obvious thing on the planet that he was going to be done, because that was a perfect slam to knock someone out. And where he landed on his head, I mean, it was really just right on the direct back of the head, like top back of the head into the mat. There was nothing else but a knockout coming from what Elijah Smith did there. So, yeah, I mean, this really was a world ender of a fatality that Elijah Smith put on this guy. And, it sucks. Like I said, Kazama was doing a lot right going into that. But oh, well.
I don't know. He got chin like immediately and then got onto the mat grappling. So I wouldn't say he was doing amazing, but go ahead.
But the reason I say that though is because Kazama, every time that they were in an exchange on the ground, he was going for the next submission position. He was constantly like Kazama went from a knee bar to a heel hook to an arm bar to a triangle. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that all of that was like going to win. Obviously it didn't, but like the instincts were there to try to utilize his strengths when he was getting heavy opposition. But Smith is just a beast, so it is what it is.
Well, I think what's also to note, and shout out to Mank in the Discord, because we always be talking about the new and upcoming trends and what to trust and what don't to trust. And when it comes to jujitsu nerds, this one is a prime example of a Japanese jujitsu nerd, because this dude threw two strikes and landed them, and then only went for one submission on the books. But obviously that's what he was going for the entire time, but didn't get it, and then eventually got slammed on his head. Like, you know, what's funny is actually the last jujitsu. I mean, we see a lot of jujitsu nerds like Buchecha, of course, and then we'll
Yeah.
talk about one in the main event. But like the last like true one, Crone Gracie also got slammed on his head. So isn't that absolutely insane that that's just history repeats itself? I don't know. This one, no, the most concerning thing that I thought is when they're going down with the slam, they did go head to head, and I thought like that could be concerning for Kazama. Like, skulls are a lot harder than fists. If you get an extra hammer fist in there, okay, it's a little ruthless, but like, the dude's gonna be okay. But like, if I throw my skull into your skull, like, and yours is planted on the ground at that point, like, it might cause some damage. Like, I don't know. He might have a fracture, I would just say, because that's
Yeah.
pretty tough.
Well, I mean, and you're talking about Skull having just gotten battered from one side and now getting battered from the
A
other side. Yeah.
concussion would be the least of what he's got going, I would say. I
Sure.
mean, that's literally the rattling of the brain. It's always that's like a double concussion. I don't know if that's a thing, but
Right. No, yeah, definitely. I mean, and so, this was one that we ended up getting medical updates throughout the broadcast for. So thankfully Kazama is okay. I mean, we did find out later on that he got all of his checks cleared and he went to the hospital and stuff. So he's going to be fine, but it was a little hairy there for a second. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the guy was on the mat for a long time. You never want to see one person standing during the announcement of the results.
it's this was the prime example of a young athlete who gets a crazy performance, right? And then the camera's on them, and they're kind of in between, do I consolidate for my opponent, or do I sit there and do this? Or do I sit there and say thank you everybody who supported me? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, but then he sits there and he's like does his little thing because his opponent is obviously still lifeless, and it's just the beauties of the sport, I guess. Human nature, man.
No, you're right. It is one of those things that it's like it's an awkward moment for the fighter who gets that, because they do have to have obviously they're very happy that they won, but there is that human element where it's like, man, I mean, you don't want the guy to be legitimately hurt. But so yeah, I actually thought that Smith handled all of that pretty well. I mean, it's like, yeah, the one hand he is, he's shouting out Rampage and he's happy, but he's also on his knees and trying to be respectful and stuff. I like Elijah Smith as a person. I think he's a good kid. I mean, he seems like a student of the game to an extent. Obviously, his father is a fighter himself, so he's been raised in the culture. And he seems like the type of dude who's just a hard worker and goes out there and puts it on the line. So, I didn't have any problem with how he handled it.
I think before this fight, people were slighting Elijah Smith as somebody who's not that hot of a prospect. And I'm not necessarily going to say this has changed my opinion. I think he's very good. He's somebody who's going to get decision wins and skate by for a very decent amount of time. This performance is in my favor, going to make the lines look like he's some knockout guy up and coming now. They're going to be like, man, he's coming off a knockout, blah, 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 blah. But this isn't even like he put somebody out in the fluky way. Like he slammed him. It's not like his punching power is something that put him out. So he's always going to have that punching power that I think is at a deficit. Maybe he'll get stronger and he'll be able to bulk up, and that'll come later. But as of right now, until he proves it to me, until I see him put somebody on their butt with a punch, he's going to be a decision merchant. And this doesn't change my opinion on that because it was a slam. Now, it was a great, instinctual moment where he was able to capitalize, and shout out to the WWE. This dude put out the power bomb. And so I don't know. It's decision is going to be next fight is what I'm going for. Until I see him knock somebody unconscious, I'm going for decision because the power isn't there, but the precision and the speed is. So that's what's key, and that's why he'll continue to win.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair assessment. If he comes out and starts to, like, again, young guy. I mean, I think he's like 23 or 25, something like
23, I
that.
think.
So I mean, like, plenty of time to continue to improve his striking and gain some power and that kind of.
22.
Oh, just even there you go. I mean, even younger. That's this guy is a
Second
baby.
youngest on the roster. That's what it was. Yeah, Raul
Ah,
and then him.
there you go. So, I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, the sky's the limit, I would say. But I mean, being fair in your assessments currently is the exact right way to look at it. So be cautious of the lines when they're like super inflated, and there might be some room for some crafty betsmanship to squeeze a little juice out of that going forward. But as of right now, I mean, it really just depends on how high they want to jump this kid up. Because I mean, like when you have something like it's the nature of the sport. We talk about narratives in this sport, shout out to TJF, of course.
100%.
But we talk about the narratives in this sport where it's like, something like that's a highlight reel moment now. That's going to be shown on every pre-fight promo package for him going forward, him fighting. So like, what does that do for his trajectory? It's going to be interesting to see what level of opponent they're going to put him up against. And because of that, that might be where your money is made. If it's somebody who can stand with him a little bit more, who can be a little bit more active in those scrambles, not just be as much of a jiu-jitsu nerd as you classed him there, Chase. I mean, there's potential for it to be much more competitive than this fight was. So just be aware of that, I think, is the right way to look at it.
I think what the UFC did is exactly right because they gave an opponent that obviously was going to propel Elijah Smith into another level of what his star potential could be. They wanted to get him a finish, so they gave him a chinny guy with a lot of losses as of as of that time in his career, kind of deal. And then he ends up doing the best thing possible for them and slams him into non-existence. Going forward, I mean, they're going to give him another opportunity that's going to be to propel him into the limelight. I think they're going to build on this guy. At 22, he's somebody who's got a father who was in the sport. That's what, the NBA built legacies and, built family trees. Like, that's what I think they're wanting to do with Elijah Smith. It's like, yes, we have a lineage through the sport. I think that's what they're going for. So they're going to give him a favorable opponent is what I'm saying.
And that very well could be. I mean, honestly, like even if it is a favorable opponent, you still have to win. So I mean, like that's to me a more acceptable version of hot shotting. It's like if you I mean, like granted, you don't want it to be like a straight can. I mean, hopefully he's not going to be
I
fighting.
mean,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that though. I don't know.
why wouldn't you, man? Why wouldn't you?
Because he was trying, man. I don't know. I think I'm coping. But I mean, well, my point is though is that
Yes.
you've already done that. Like if you've already had this version of this, the guy was fighting, on the Contender Series, what, 2 fights ago?
Hmm.
So I mean, like obviously it's like you have to incrementally move him up. So even if it is someone who's like a little bit spotty, you would think that it'd be more of a not veteran in the sense of like what we're thinking about veteran, but like a dude who's had a number of fights under his belt and is just maybe a middling guy, a mid-tier guy, I think would be appropriate, even if it's someone who has the potential to lose that fight. So if that's the case, then you're actually progressing the career somewhat like naturally and in a way that I think makes sense. So if it's somebody who is a favorable matchup, quote unquote, he still has to win that matchup. And if it's somebody who's a better opponent than this, there might be something to think about.
I think, and I know I talk about Josh Van so much, but I think that is the better route to take. He had to prove that he was worthy of the spotlight. He had to go out there and finish guys or put on one hell of a performance. And at flyweight, it's really hard to command the spotlight kind of deal. Elijah Smith is at that young age where you don't want to throw him up too soon because if you ruin the light that's with him, the potential that's there early, then you're ruining what could be like a 28-year-old prime, champion for your promotion. So they're going to take the Raul route maybe, and then give him nobodies forever, and then give him fights that he probably is going to lose every now and then. And then, it's not somebody that Raul, we haven't seen him in a while. Like it's somebody that you just forget about after he performs. Like when you get the fight announcements, you're like, yeah, Raul. And then you forget, and then when he comes up, you're like, "Yeah, Raul," and then he wins, and then he just disappears again and goes off to Chihuahua's land. I don't know. So, I hope Elijah Smith doesn't fall in that category because he can be impressive. He's very, like I said, there's a lot of things. The ceiling's high for him, but we got to see him active. We got to see him against opponents that make sense and that aren't necessarily just feeder fights. Because Josh Van, he didn't have feeder fights per se, but he was up against opponents that were decent enough names that he had to prove himself, and he was doing really, really good. So Elijah Smith, just do really, really good, and I'll have a lot of hope for you.
Yeah, I think that that's fine, and really, it's all speculation until we find out who his next opponent is anyway. So,
Mhm.
once we see that, we'll get a better impression of what the trajectory is going to look like going forward, and from there, I mean, really, it's just continue to build on the dynamics that you currently have. Because I mean, at 22 years old, to be as tenacious as he is, I mean, he really is like a I always talk about fast starters, and he is definitely a fast starter, at least like in this fight. So if he can continue to come out there and put on performances that are noteworthy and memorable, then we're just gonna have to see what the ceiling is like. So going forward, I see good things in the future. We'll see if the matchmaking is somewhat favorable, but it all remains to be seen.
Yeah, 100%. But I do like Elijah Smith, and I think this was the performance that the promotion needed to get the fans on his side. Because after last one, I don't think people believed in him because that Vince Morales one was pretty tough. But that was a decent enough war with a grappler that we should have known, like, this guy wasn't going to be anything to him. So, whatever.
I added this to the knockout of the year list. Do you think that it
Oh, yeah.
deserves to be there? Yep. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, then that answers that. All
I
right,
think
well,
it's unfortunate that it's a slam because there's probably only going to be one or maybe another two. So when it comes to knockout of the year, it's like a slam knockout compared to four other punches or kicks or whatever it is. So it kind of stands out. That's the unfortunate part. It might have to go honorable mention, unfortunately, if we have to do like a consistent judging criteria for him.
well, I mean, tune in at the end of this year, and we'll go through all of the lists
Yeah.
together. So, all right, well, moving on to the next one here to round out the prelims: Julius Walker versus Rafael Sequeira. Uh, yeah. So, going into this fight, you were very high on Julius Walker. Is your opinion still the same?
Um, he didn't look as good as I was remembering him looking, and he didn't look as good as I was hoping he would look against somebody who was not very good in his last performance. He did not take shots as well as I was hoping somebody at the light heavyweight would take for a striker and a first round finisher kind of deal. And he also did not get takedowns as I mean, he did get them at a high clip, but boy were they ugly and they were not fun to watch. And I watched this dude stand on his knees for a decent amount of this fight, which was pretty funny. Um, I think Elite, Mank in the Discord, excuse me, we have just accepted that people will just not look good, and that's the winning method. Is if you look the worst, you will sometimes just win fights. I don't know how to explain it. 30-26 for somebody who genuinely look like they don't know what they're doing in the cage. I mean, and that's obviously very harsh. He knows everything in the cage. He's very, very good, but it just doesn't look like it. I don't know how to explain it. Like he was struggling. He got rocked a few times. He was shooting from his knees. He was laying on his back a lot. He was tired way early in the fight. And shout out Julius Walker. He's got a huge frame for light heavyweight. Like he's tall, he's muscular, he's built up top. Like it's not his legs, it's it's a torso. And man, did he just not look as good as I was hoping. But he did get the win, so let me chill out. Like it was a good win, but man, was I hoping a more clean performance after your debut. I was like, okay, he should be super technical now that he's honed in on what he's capable of. And it just didn't look like it looked like he was throwing a lot of caution at the wind. Like I'm just gonna shoot for a takedown, and if I end up on my knees crawling, it is what it is. And DDP be doing that too, but like that's just the era we're in. You just got to go for it.
Yeah, the Drekus comparison was certainly not lost on me. I think that there are definitely levels to that style too. Obviously, Drekus had a
Yes.
different one than this guy, but yeah, my overall assessment after watching this fight was Walker is definitely not great, and Zakaria is definitely not great.
Oh
Like
God.
this dude, man, I'm telling you. So, I mean, look, I have a little unique element with this because he shouted out to E Money J earlier. That's the homie. He's always in the watch alongs. I appreciate that guy often coming through with some really, really good picks. for some reason had so much faith in Sakaria that we
Damn.
ended up taking winnings from the earlier community parlay and putting them onto Sakaria. That was the agreement, was that if the early parlay hits, you put everything on Sakaria. And I was like, okay, I'll do it, but I guarantee that this is a bad idea. That round 2, I think that was the loudest I got on the watch along, where I said, how the fuck did you think that this was a good idea? Because that was, you said one of those judges gave a 30-26. That was the 10-8 round, was that second round. I mean, like, Walker in round 2 kicks the leg from under Sakaria immediately on top. Sakaria accepting position early in that round. I mean, like, he didn't show instincts in this fight until the third round. And the third round was crazy. I mean, they're up and down, they both knocked each other down at one point. Walker ends up dead bugging at one point. I was like, oh God, like you said, this is not a good look, even in victory here. And he actually, Sakaria at that point did say, get up. And I was like, I appreciate that at least. But yeah, Walker ends up, coming back and drops Sakaria. They're kind of back and forth, one's wobbly. It was just a bit of a slop fest between these two. So it's like, there are levels to the sloppiness, and Walker came out on top in that. But I mean, it was one of those things that if you wanted to be generous, maybe you might have in some world been able to give Cicada that third round, possibly. If again, you'd have to be very generous for that, but 30-27 is probably the right call here. And I came away from this being like, damn, I really don't see what Chase saw in this guy as much from the first fight, even though he was going up against a much, a higher ranked and skilled opponent at that time.
Yeah, no, this definitely changed my opinion a little bit. I'm kind of worried about him going forward. What I think is funny about damage in this sport when it comes to a specific instance is because there was 2 instances where Cicada wobble Julius Walker, right? But considering, there was one in the first and then one in the third. But considering Julius Walker didn't fall over, it doesn't necessarily count, but boy, does it look funny as fuck. Oh my God, the chicken dance that Julius Walker put on in the third round, it was one of the most funny things ever. And then on top of that, to then lose that round is like hilarious, because like the damage just doesn't equate. Like it's not like a knockdown, and it's not like he makes him bleed. It's just like, oh, he just landed like a really hard strike. But then to go on and lose the round, like it really must not mean much that you wobbled him like to the point where he almost fell over, because Julius Walker was able to barely do anything and then steal the round from you, which is pretty nuts.
Well, and that's what goes back to optics. And I mean, sometimes more than others, it would seem that optics are a big factor in these fights. This is as far as the judging goes on this card, it was definitely a huge factor, I would say, here. And like Cicada, for 2 rounds, is getting all kinds of tossed all over the place. Like you said, on the knees, just, kind of dirty wrestling all over the place, this dirty grappling exchanges left and right. And so it's like, by the time that you finally do something that's of value, like your shine is the bloom is off the rose kind of thing. Your shine is gone. So, it was just an unfortunate thing that he sort of did not turn up in this fight until late in the fight. It could have been a very cool comeback. It could have been one of those things like our boy Phil Rowe, who had recently, where it was like, man, he was getting whipped on for 2 rounds and then turned it around at the last minute. But you got to be able to follow through on that, and he wasn't able to do that. So yeah, I mean, Cicada is one of those dudes who, like, I mean, he's just been consistently unimpressive. He had a moment here that could have been the turning point, but it was way too late in the fight, and he wasn't able to finish on that. So I'm sorry, there's no consolation prize in all of that dynamic.
Yeah, this should just prove to you that we are just in the dark era of the big mans, because they even the prospects that you once thought were good, they've just been tainted by what we've seen so recently. They just come out here and look exactly like them. Like, I couldn't tell you a difference between him and Muhammad Usman right now, and this is ridiculous. But
yeah, these are low-level guys, though. I mean, I'm hoping that, like, maybe there's going to be a couple that, like, break through that, like that ceiling is like a crackable ceiling kind of thing. But I mean, it's hard to deny that there are, like, more of that on a regular basis, and this is a fight that exemplifies that for sure.
100%.
So whatever, Walker gets the win. Good job.
Right.
All right, moving on. Main card here: Eric Anders versus Christian Leroy Duncan. John Gooden called Duncan a former basketball man. Thought that was kind of funny. You're a basketball man yourself, aren't you, Chase?
A former one. I don't know if he meant. Did he mix him up with Julius Walker? Because Julius Walker was a former basketball player. I don't know anything about Christian Leroy Duncan being a basketball player.
They might have gotten the notes mixed up there because I think that it was Dom that came back and was like, "You guys got basketball in the UK?" He was like, "I guess that Duncan does."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, either way, this
I feel like
performance.
there was a basketball man, though. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah. No. I
player.
get you. I get you. I get you. No, that
Anyway.
is very funny that he said that.
All right. So as far as this performance goes, though, for Christian Leroy Duncan, impressive, but I do have to say that he was doing some dirty work in this fight, man. I mean, this was another short one. This was a first round finish, but an eye poke and a nut shot back to back on poor Eryk Anders, who's, in the old folks' home to begin with. Like, give the guy a little break here.
Yeah, this performance, I don't know if there's anything I want to like say necessarily because I mean, Christian Leroy Duncan came out and finished in the first round. That's what Christian Leroy Duncan does, you know. Excuse me. And there's nothing really more to say. Eryk Anders is somebody that shouldn't have even been in this fight with a young up and coming killer like this. I mean, this is the Neil Magny and Michael Morales type of thing. Like really nuts, but
I don't know if I'd go that far with Duncan, only because he's been a little bit more spotty, not spotty in his win ability, but he did go. He did have the loss to RoboCop, which was a little bit of a high flyer kind of attempt there, and then in his last fight looked very much like he was coasting. So this was a nice return to form versus someone that he should have done that against. That's basically exactly what we said on the watch along. I mean, on the last episode of this show, we were like, this is a fight that he really should win. I mean, there's really no reason to think that he should not do exactly what he is capable of doing in this fight. And he did that. So, I mean, a couple of notes that I did have about like what he did to do that was that I thought that he did a good job of kicking low. Like he had a good number of like low kicks and some odd angle oblique kicks that I thought were good setups for what ended up being the spinning elbow at close range. And I did want to give him specific credit for landing the spinning elbow, not only at perfect range, but at perfect power as well, because it wasn't like a ranged elbow where he had to like load up the shot. Like he was at such close range to him that all of the power had to be generated as he was turning his body, as opposed to him flinging the arm. Like the power already had to be coming across when he landed the elbow. So he put a really good amount of power knowing the range that he was at. So it was really well placed. Like it was all kind of like a perfect setup for that, with all of the low kicks into that. So fight IQ wise, I thought that he was pretty good and pretty sound with all of what he was doing to make this knockout happen. I just didn't like that he was a little bit of a dirtbag getting into it.
I think the only thing that I walked away with this is that Christian Leroy Duncan is one of these creative strikers. He's a guy who finishes in creative ways, and that's the way that he finishes, is he catches you off guard by something that you're never expecting, similar to someone like Shara. And the difference is that Shara, when he gets into wars, he actually is still able to. Interesting enough, it's not abandon the game plan and switch to something that will work. He's able to actually power through with his game plan, and he still is able to beat Shara even when the going gets tough. Like he still fights the exact same and is able to capitalize on the way that he fights. Christian Leroy Duncan, we've seen him against RoboCop, and he wasn't able to be what Christian Leroy Duncan is. And I think that should just be the telling thing right there. Is Christian, when he gets going, he's looking like $1,000,000. But when it gets tough, then he's coasting a little bit, and he's not. If he's not able to get that finish, if he's not able to style on you, then he's gonna either coast or he's gonna get beat. I don't know.
And that's exactly. I think you nailed it with that assessment, because that's what gives me pause about him in general, where it's like, good here, okay against Pulev. Like, where's going to be the happy sweet spot where you get like a good matchup for him, where he's forced to be a little bit more like out of his comfort zone and still gets the win. That's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, where's the fighter that's going to give him adversity and force him to like be gritty,
Well, and we talked about Elijah Smith just a little bit ago. In his debut, it was against Vince Morales, and that was a tough matchup for him. It was a lot of submissions, a lot of interesting things when the grappling came, and he's a striker at heart, and he was still able to weather that performance. And then looking at the next one against a grappler, he was obviously able to weather that performance as well. It wasn't what he was expecting, I'm sure, and he made it happen. Christian Leroy Duncan, the only time that he had a fight that he wasn't expecting, or the only two times, I guess, it was not the performances that Christian Leroy Duncan is able to put on, and we expected more. So I think it's unfortunate that I think I'm seeing the inconsistencies. Because I do like that performance right there. That was a mean elbow. That was a good finish. He was able to get that done. And we've seen Christian do performances like that. He likes to finish with elbows. I tell you that. But when he doesn't get that finish or he's not hunting for it and he's not able, I mean, he's not somebody that I wish I put my money on at that time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just concerning, like when you see a fighter get the win and but you've already seen the ceiling, I guess is
Mhm.
what I'm getting at there. So it's like, hopefully he can break through that. Maybe there's more to him. Maybe there's an evolution that's possible. A win here against Eric Anders almost feels slightly like a little bit of a foregone conclusion. So good on him for, not fumbling that. But at the same time, like I'm going to need to see consistency in order to have a more strong, favorable opinion. And there's nothing to say that that can't happen. Just got to see it.
No, 100%.
So yeah, I mean, good win here though. Again, I liked the setups. I liked the fight IQ that was shown. I liked that obviously his corner had a pretty good game plan and good strategy for this fight. As far as Anders goes, I just at least want to mention that he was trying out there. It looked like he was just kind of a little out of his depth, but then again, with all of the kind of the dirtier stuff early on, it's one of those tough situations where it feels like, because like the reason I say this, the reason I wanted to mention this before we moved on was because after the fight was over, Anders accepted the loss very, like, it wasn't like any question or anything like that, but it's like when there are those little factors that come into play with two back-to-back fouls with no call, it's like it feels like it's a little marred in a slight circumstance there. So I give him credit for not making an issue out of it, but I don't necessarily think he would have been completely wrong if he had, like if in his post fight, like in the interviews afterwards, like when they're doing the press scrum, if he said something about that, I don't think he would be wrong to say that.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, but that's what comes with being a professional in this sport is you got to just take your wins and take your losses the same way. And I think this was kind of a hammy performance. Christian was going to win this no matter what. I mean, there was no way. I mean, Eric Anders, shout out to him. He did shoot for some good takedowns and got some success early. But we all knew once it got back to the feet, I mean, Leroy was just setting up a finish here. And that's
Yeah.
what's unfortunate. I don't know what you're talking about with the low blow. I think he might, I don't know. I don't think I ever.
Oh yeah, no, he did. He got an eye poke and a nut shot back to back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyway,
yeah.
whatever. I mean, I'm dwelling on it a little
No,
bit, but
yeah, I
um,
definitely agree with you, though. I just think, in defeat, what Eric Anders can hang his hat on is that we are not thinking the world of Christian Leroy Duncan. So,
there you go. I think that that's a nice silver lining there. And, I do hope that Anders can continue his sobriety because I know that he's
yeah.
taking pride in that. I think they said 18 months sober currently.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. I'm not trying to make it seem like that, but isn't that an interesting layer to some of these things? It's like, what if this is the loss? Like, he just got fouled twice and they didn't give a shit. And then it's like, well, back down the fucking hall. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like that, but,
no,
it is an interesting conversation to have.
yeah. And that's exactly why I brought it up because I'm just, it's like it adds a little bit of an asterisk to an
Mhm.
extent, in my opinion. But it is what it is, and like you said, that's the nature of the beast in this sport. So you
True.
can't dwell on it too much. And Anders was a consummate professional, so I like him as a person. You know what I mean? Like, and that's I want to give him his just due because it feels like we were just Leroy Duncan was just like I said. I said it a foregone conclusion, but it's
Mhm.
I mean he's still was in there. I mean he still
Yeah.
made it a fight. So anyway,
Speaking of, well, I don't remember what you said that I wanted to piggyback on, but this fight right here genuinely made me not this next one,
yeah,
sorry. This next fight right here genuinely made me not want to like participate in watching the sport after this because no, and I'm serious. I'm
Oh
serious
no.
because if Miles Johns
Oh
versus
yeah, let
John
me
Matsumoto, go
say
ahead,
there
go
you
ahead.
go. Just Miles Johns versus Jean Matsumoto is the fight we're talking about. Shout out to Didgeridoo Dave, by the way.
Yes, and
Appreciate you, brother.
Didgeridoo, I just want you to understand that Miles Johns is somebody that I don't necessarily participate in rooting for. This is not my favorite guy on the planet, but in reality, I do make bets based on what I believe is the most risk-free. And Miles Johns by decision is one of the most risk-free bets that you could ever have in this game. And I've not bet that in a long time because I've been opposing Miles Johns and he's been proving me wrong. So that's why I believe that this was the right call to make. Miles Johns has everything going for him, but it is only because the promotion understands that he is a decision merchant and is not the most exciting fighter that they had to clearly make the call to rob him. But what they didn't know is that he was going to put on his most exciting performance to date in this fight right here. And I think it's just absolutely fucking ridiculous because when people that I don't necessarily root for, I'm going for you, right? And we go to decision and they clearly rob them. Imagine if it was somebody that I really, really liked. Like then we'd have a genuine problem. Like that would make me not want to watch. So this one was just the first step. Like you took away the aspect because like I'm watching, and in my opinion, clear cut. Like this was Miles John's fight. Like no way did John Matsumoto, 29-28 is gracious in my opinion. I thought every round Miles John's he scored a takedown in every single round and the striking was close. So I don't get where you come up with, you know, I so many things made me frustrated about this fight and I'm looking at the numbers right now and it frustrates me even more because Miles Johns outstruck him in every round in my opinion. He landed the more powerful shots in every round in my opinion. Every time John Matsumoto was hit, he was flying across the cage. It was absolutely atrocious for how like he was selling the damage like he's a WWE superstar. Then, not to mention he gets cut multiple times. uh, those apparently are losing rounds for Miles Johns. Again, I talked about the takedowns. Miles Johns gets one every single round. He scored 5 of them, by the way, 3 minutes of control time. Where would you see a loss for Miles Johns after everything that I just told you? I know you want to explain, but I want to have the UFC listen to me. I think commissions, whoever is able to make this possible, you need to have the judging have a criteria spot. I know you guys have all come from school where there is multiple choice and there's extended responses. We need the box. I need that rectangle underneath every scorecard, and you need to tell me why the round was won by whoever you picked. And I need a genuine 3 to 5 paragraph response because it's ridiculous. There's no way that you could, because if I put it that way, there's no way you can tell me John Matsumoto won. There's just genuinely no scenario. He didn't outstrike him. He didn't get more takedowns. He didn't control him more. He didn't have more damage. He did not walk forward more. He landed more low kicks. I'll give you that. Genuinely, I'll give you that. And Miles Johns looked like they hurt. But did he stop? No. No. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying here. In the moment, I certainly thought that Johns won it. On the watch along, I was definitely saying that. On the rewatch, it was very, very close, and I'll explain my reasoning at least after having rewatched the
I'm
fight.
waiting.
So, round one, clearly, Johns won that round. Heavy takedown, more output, heavier shots. Johns was looking good out of the gate. Matsumoto found his rhythm in the second round. Johns fell behind a little bit as Matsumoto began landing with better consistency, throwing that jump knee out there a couple of times. I thought that might have, the flash of that might have been, again, optics. I think optics played a big part on this card in general. Look, man, don't be laughing at me. I'm telling you what these
face is all busted. I know. Continue. Go ahead.
but I mean, I'm telling you what these guys saw at least. So I was saying that 1-1 going into the third round made sense to me based on the output of Matsumoto in the second once he started to get his rhythm down. I liked how Johns was walking forward with his combos in the third. Matsumoto continued with a nice variety of strikes in the third. He had good kicks. Johns gets the takedown, doesn't do much with it, lands a nice one towards the end. Was pretty much all that there was to say about this. I mean, like, so all of that being said, split decision win for Matsumoto. I thought that on, like said in the watch along, that it was John's fight. Rewatching it, very, very close, because if it was 1-1 going into the third, then that third round had moments on either side. So I say at least a deserved split decision, but it should have been a split decision going to Miles Johns.
So when you get to the scoring of this and you see what the judges have concocted as their scorecards, you will realize that the dude who scored the fight for Miles Johns didn't even give him the first round. So how does that make sense? And then the
Is
dudes
that the
that
case? Did he really
yes,
not?
yes.
Dude, again, the judging on this card was out of this world. It was
But
just
then
insane.
the guys who gave Johns, who gave Matsumoto the win, they gave Johns the first round, but then he lost the other ones, and it like you can't make this shit up,
Yeah.
you genuinely can't. So
Oh
whatever.
yeah, I mean, it harkens back to what we were talking about. I think it was last week or the week before, but when we were talking about that PFL card that happened recently, where there was a 30-27 on both sides of a split decision. Like, where is the consistency in the judging here? And also, to your point too, so this is a fight that I had a specific interest in because I had picked Jean Matsumoto as the more significant strikes. That was in my parlay, was that I thought that John Matsumoto was going to land more significant strikes. Watching it in the moment, I was genuinely nervous. I was like, there is no way. I mean, they are neck and neck with this striking. So this is another one where these striking numbers seem very inflated. And this is this would be a perfect fight. If I have the time, maybe I'll try to do it. But this would be a perfect fight to go back with the clicker and try to like tally up either side, because it just seems very, very strange to me that with all of the dynamics, because that first round, Miles Johns was clear and far ahead. I mean, like, it had to have been like maybe like a 15-18 strike differential, something like that. And then you're telling me that in those last two, even with Matsumoto having a better second round, that he covered that gap.
And getting held down for 3 minutes of it.
This is what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, it's just wonky fuckery when it comes to these judges. And it goes back to what I've always said about the commissions. The consistency needs to be reassessed. Like, there needs to be a stronger set of guidelines and criteria that make it less subjective. And I know that the nature of this sport lends itself to subjectivity by its very design. So it's hard to negate every element of that, but there has to be some cohesion at the top coming down from the ABC, because like, if you're not going to have that, you get cards like this. And again, this is fighters' careers over here. We're talking about it as fans coming from the parlay perspective. And yeah, that sucks to lose money, but like, Miles Johns, you saw how he took that loss. I mean, like, he was on the ground with his head in his hands, like, like, what the fuck more do I have to do to get this wins? And he was exactly correct in feeling that way in this one. So this was really an unfortunate kind of situation when it came to this judging. And to say that one judge that gave him the fight did not give him the one round that he was most dominant in really should send a signal to the governing body that you need to train these people better.
Yeah, wouldn't a 30-27 have been crazy in this one? But
Oh,
whatever,
I
doesn't it? Yeah.
fucking lose my mind at that point. I mean, but either way, I mean, the sad thing is that I would not have been caught off guard on this card.
No, it's whatever. Yeah, I don't know what could be the solution, and we can go over this for eternity, and it's maybe not even the time for the discussion. But like, I don't know what the solution could be to the judging criteria. It's not AI, I tell you that. But
I
digress.
like your idea of having it having to make them do a a full term paper.
I mean, I think, in between rounds, a 30 seconds or a minute and 30, whatever it ends up being, like, just jot down why you think you won the round. John landed more strikes, Miles landed the more powerful strikes. I don't think it's out of, like, come on, like, are you serious? You can't tell me why you thought he won the round. You just got to just mark a number. Like, I don't know.
Have the judges have a little voice recorder, and they
Mhm.
just speak into the voice recorder real quick. You can do that in 5 seconds. Like you
Yeah,
said, more strikes landed on blue side, two takedowns on red side, but whatever, what I mean?
I
Something
need
like that. I think it could be helpful. I don't know. Like, again, like you said, it's not the time to go into the full on discussion, but like, it's just, how many weeks do we have to have these same conversations is what bothers
I
me.
I actually think we're on to something, and I know we're not going to have the rant right now, but if you think about, we're wanting more. We need these people to have more. Like, the judges, they have an opinion on the fights, but if they give an opinion that we can like actually see what their reasoning would be, it just adds more I don't know, like then they're more on the hot seat. Like give me your reasoning, and if I don't agree with it, then okay. Then okay, I don't agree with what you saw, but at least you give me something that you believe. But
Yeah, I
like,
mean, it gives them more validity, and it allows us to actually enjoy the sport more. I mean, like the consistency is just be consistent with like good, like with a criteria that can be applied across the board equally. That's all that I want, but who knows?
yeah.
Anyway. All right, but yeah, so John Matsumoto gets the win here, probably not deserved. Keep that in mind for the next Matsumoto fight. I mean, coming off of fights to two veteran fighters. Now, this is a guy that they had a lot of faith in as a newer guy.
Mhm.
Putting him against Rob
Well,
Font.
you can see why they gave him the fucking W.
Well, I mean, all right, that's another story altogether. But like, but so I mean, but the thing is, so he's coming off of a loss to Rob Font and now a win over Miles Johns. Like, take that information going forward and keep it in the back of your mind, because this is exactly why you have to actually watch these fights.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree.
All right. Well, moving on to the next one here, Andre Touchy Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. A fine return to form for Fili after what I thought was a really bad loss in the submission against Costa. But I mean, this was kind of exactly the fight that I had expected out of these two. I think that maybe this was really lending itself towards your assessment from last week of Rodriguez kind of like maybe not trying as hard as he should sometimes, but I thought that Fili made this fight his. So I'll give him credit where credit is due. He took over the control of this fight. I think the veteran instincts were a little bit more strong on his side, and it was a solid performance overall, but it was solid point fighting.
I think you're giving me more credit. I feel like I would have been telling you that Christian Rodriguez is going to win this fight very convincingly, and by the end of the week, I was actually telling people that Christian Rodriguez submission is very live. This is somebody who had just got submitted by Meli Costa and very well gave himself the submission loss. And Christian Rodriguez came out here, and I was a little upset, and I'm not going to use the words that I used on stream. That stream is now taken down. I
Uh-oh.
was very upset. And Christian Rodriguez, you are not as dumb as I was saying you are, but I do believe you could have performed a lot better, because what I was watching in this performance is somebody who shows up to the fights at featherweight and does not have a six pack and then does not win fights. I mean, there's a correlation here. You need to take the craft just a little more serious, Christian Rodriguez, because there's no reason that performance after performance you will come in here and just put on a lousy one. It's really unfortunate that you just don't perform well. Like, it's Andre Fili. This is somebody who doesn't need to keep sticking around. Like, he's fun to have around for the fans, but like as a performance, as an athlete's perspective, Christian Rodriguez, you're a prospect. It's time to get the old vet out of there. Like, when you're up against him, you need to know that it's your time. And the fact that you're never able to just turn the switch on, I don't know, dude. This is just horrible. It just really sucks that you made yourself look this bad. And to be fair, I was telling him to stop being stupid and to shoot takedowns and make it a wrestling match, but he was. He was shooting takedowns and could not get them. But I think that was also him just not utilizing his skill set in the right ways, because I've seen him do a lot of things. And Andre Fili, really, like, that should not be the dude that's hindering your career. And I just think that sucks right now. So,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that at the beginning of this fight, Rodriguez actually looked like he was trying, to an extent. Like like at the very, very beginning, I was like, oh, okay, maybe Rodriguez is showing us something here a little bit. It was just kind of a systematic breakdown from there. I also thought that Rodriguez ended up kind of gassing at one point there, like kind of a little bit early in my estimation. I mean, maybe like not a full on gas out, like to the point where he was like completely done, but he was breathing a little bit more heavy than I had like expected him to kind of midway through this fight. And I was just like, I mean, Fili is just going to go through the steps that it takes to continue to get his way, and that's what he did, really. I mean, there was not like much of like a sense of urgency in Rodriguez after like the first round. I mean, it lulled in the second round, came out strong again ish in the third, but it also fell off pretty quickly after like the skills of Feely sort of like overtook him. I thought that Feely had some good level changes at that point, and Rodriguez just lost steam by the end of the fight. And Feely he's a guy with like long arms, like he uses his reach really well, and I think that was kind of like it was one of those situations that if Rodriguez had been a more like tenacious fighter, then you get past the range and you can go in there and like, start landing close range shots. You tie him up, you get some stuff in the clinch, get some elbows in the clinch. Like you have to be a more of a dogged fighter. And I just don't think Rodriguez is that guy. So
yeah,
all of those things together, it's like, that's why, I'm not really, I wasn't super enthused about this fight going into it. And I'm still not after seeing it, because like, yeah, this was what a veteran of the sport like Andre Feely was supposed to do. And this was another Christian Rodriguez fight where I was like just kind of nonplussed,
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, not much more that I think I need to say about this one, other than Christian let me down. Andre Feely listen, when I first started getting back into the sport, watching more consistently, Andre Feely was somebody that got like a fucking knockout finish, and I was like, holy shit, this dude's actually pretty good. And then he gets flatlined by Dan Ige or something like that, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, this dude's just run of the sport just because he loves it, kind of deal. And he truly does. I really respect that aspect of Andre Feely, and I respect that he was able to come in here and beat Christian Rodriguez. And the last thing that I will note about this is his post-fight speech was hilarious. If you didn't catch it,
Oh no, I did. Yeah, no, he's fun on the mic. I didn't realize that, or I guess wasn't giving him enough credit. But yeah, I thought it was cool. Talking about being one of the older guys beating up on the
oh no,
youngsters
so
and all
you
that.
didn't, okay, you didn't catch the part. So I didn't catch it either at the time. So they pan the camera over to his wife, and he's like, hey, shout out to my baby, and that's my girlfriend. Not the one on the right though, but if I get 50K, we'll see how it goes.
Ah, my man. All right, no,
Yeah,
I did not catch that. That's funny.
it's pretty good.
No, the only other thing I had to note about this fight though was split decision on this one. What the fuck were these judges on? I mean,
Yeah.
this, I mean, I don't want to keep harping on it. We've talked about it a plenty so far, but this was such a clear 30-27 that like I just it's mind boggling to me that that like there could be any inkling that this would have been a split decision fight, but I digress, I suppose.
Well,
But yeah, that was yeah.
yeah, we talked about it last week and the week before. It's like there'll be unanimous decisions where it be a damn war, and
Right.
and then we get a split decision where you go to the bathroom because you're coming back to the judges giving unanimous, and then you come back to a split. Somebody won a 29-28 somehow. Like it doesn't really make sense, but
Yeah. This was some of the wonkier judging that we have seen in recent memory. At least all on one card. You know what I mean? Like there are some times where you'll get that errant one fight where it's like where were their heads at? But like this was like a lot of bad judging in
isn't
one.
isn't it what so interesting that by now we should have known that, like, okay, Vegas judges this way kind of deal, or New Jersey judges this way, but like you genuinely have no idea what these people are going to do.
I That's literally what I had said on the watch along. I'm like, this is Las Vegas. This is where you're supposed to get the most consistent judging. And to have this in the
Yeah,
hometown essentially is just it's so ridiculous. But anyway,
criminal.
again,
It is
yeah,
like a
it's
damn
just
criminal.
criminal. Yeah, it really is. But I mean, it's like we can go on for forever about it
Yeah.
if we do. So let's just keep moving here.
Oh no, we got to get into this better fight, of course.
Oh yes, yeah. This barn burner here, Angela Hill versus Yasmin Lucindo. It is amazing to me that Angela Hill can consistently live up to the phrase that I coined, which is Angela Hill syndrome, where a fighter wins when they are supposed to lose and loses when they are supposed to win. And this yet another example. I am so proud of myself, Chase. I finally have learned my lesson and did not bet on this fight.
I don't think you should be, because I think you're the reason that I had hopes in Angela Hill. In my mind, I'm like thinking, I mean, 41 or whatever. Yeah, women, they might
I
be able
said
to
stay
go a little
away.
longer. They
I
might be
said
able to
stay
go a
away
little,
from.
you
No,
know.
that's not wrong though. It's just Angela Hill though.
Yeah, yeah, but Yasmin also in her last performance looked like dog shit. So I was not going to be the one to go ahead and say to put money on her. This was a bad call. The fact about losing money on a split decision by for Miles Johns is that I was very furious at that time. But if I understand that I wasn't going to win the money anyways, like Angela Hill was the nail on the coffin for it right here. Like, I was gonna lose either way, so I can't even be mad. Just go ahead and enjoy the rest of the night. Miles Johns may have got robbed, but Angela Hill, no matter what, was going to suck. So is she 15-15? Is that really what that is right there, or is it
Eh,
16-15?
18-15.
18-15. Oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate that she just has the worst consistency. I mean, like, talk about checkerboard beyond anybody's comprehension. What?
It'd be so crazy too, because it's not even like, oh man, her cardio is so inconsistent. She gasses out. It's like, no, she just sucks. Like, she'll just go in there and suck. Like, I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, she's got, like, I think that the issue that I see with her is that she is a fundamentally sound fighter who cannot enact a game plan that fits the fighter that she's opposing. Like, she goes in there with like a very like rigid set of skills, and if they're working for her, she gets her way. If anything deviates, like, she cannot apply to, she doesn't show up to the dance that she's brought to. You know what I mean? Like, it's inconsistent in the fact that, like, the other person is different. She's always the same. So
Yeah.
sometimes she'll win, sometimes she'll lose, just depending on what the other person brings to the table. And Lucindo in this fight, I mean, she was able to swing the first round, which was really the only time that Angela Hill had any success, was in that first round with a little bit of striking. I thought it was a little bit strange that Hill wanted to stand so much with her. So maybe that was a little bit of a game change as far as like the game planning went, that she wasn't just instantly going for takedowns and stuff. Because I guess Lucindo had said, oh, I'm going to be conscious of the takedowns. I know she's going to want to do it, this and that. But like, it actually ended up being Lucindo who ended up getting the top control for a lot of that. So, I mean, yeah, there was just no path to victory after this first round for Angela Hill. And I just like, it's just insane to me that how, like, she's consistently inconsistent. That's just the only way to put it.
This was one of those fights where it was just one long round. It just
Right.
never ended. Angela Hill never had the answer. She was never going to switch up the game plan. You want to talk about the success that Angela Hill had. I would like to disagree that she had much. The only one that you could argue would be her her pre-fight antics, which I wasn't a fan of. The fake boobies, cool, but like, girl, you just lost your fight 30-27. Maybe you're too old for this shit. How about you just make the cut, get on the scale, and like go on about your day? Like, if you're gonna lose 30-27, throw a pie in somebody's face or something. I don't know. Do something actually fucking noteworthy if you're just going out there to lose either way. But whatever.
Yeah, I understand the frustration there. I think that that's also one of the things that ends up getting taken into consideration for some people, is just that Angela Hill is a likable person, and that's fine. I remember that going back probably like a year or 2 years, 3 years ago, just saying like, yeah, just keep Angela Hill at the desk, go into commentary. She's done commentary before. She's been at the desk before. Maybe that's the place that you're better suited at this point, considering how inconsistent you've been in the cage. I mean, it's just like, you got to be realistic about this at this point. I mean, this is also another case of like a very young fighter, because Lucindo is 23 years old. So, I mean, she's got 23-year-old cardio, of course. But that being said, that's exactly who you're going to be facing, and then facing killers beyond that. So, I mean, like, it's just like, know when to hold them, know when to fold them at this point for Angela Hill. And I mean, I'm tired. I'm tired of constantly having to see her go into these fights saying, man, maybe this will be the time. She loses that, man, she's going to lose this one. She ends up pulling out a victory somehow, some way. It's just, it gets bothersome to like consistently see that person on the card being this inconsistent.
Genuinely, there should not be somebody with 15 losses without 20 wins on the UFC roster. It is just time to go ahead and say it. I know she's been a veteran, and I know people want to have a little bit of pity for the career that she's had, but genuinely, time to hang it up. I mean, if you can't beat Yasmin Lucindo, I mean, who are you beating? And I know you just won your last fight, but like, cut it. Cut it.
Yeah, I mean, what I always say when it comes to the records is, anytime that the losses start creeping into the halfway point towards the wins, that's when you're starting to get into troublesome territory. She's almost even on
Mhm.
wins and losses.
Yeah.
that's just unacceptable. I mean, I really don't care what level of the sport you're at. So I like I said, I think she's a very charming woman. I think that she's got a great personality. She will be very well suited to commentary. Go off and do that.
Hell yeah.
So, all right. Moving on to the co-main here, Mr. Steve Astro Boy Ersk versus Ode Osborne. Osborne in on short notice. This fight is at bantamweight instead of flyweight for that reason. Another kind of weird one. I mean, what do you think, Chase?
Dude, I mean, there's only one thing to think. Steve Ersk is never going to be top of the division because he is so chinny. This guy just went to war with Ode Osborne. I mean, genuinely, I think Pantoja might have been injured that fight. I think that is what the conclusion is for me. Pantoja was close because he was hurt, and Steve Ersk had that lightning in a bottle performance. But ever since then, he has been underwhelming, overhyped, and somebody that I probably would have liked him if they wouldn't have shoved him down my throat. Like, pause. I would like to think that Steve Ersk is somebody that I would find as endearing if he wasn't somebody that they just kept giving opportunities against greater, oppositions type of deal. And then he gets this short notice bout against Ode Osborne and goes tooth and nail with him. I'm just like, he gets dropped in the first round, mind you. They don't count that. Slip or not, he literally got rocked in the first round by Ode Osborne. And then the second two rounds, he did go ahead and win. I'm not going to argue, but, a unanimous decision, sure. I also would like to know before I let you go, is Ode Osborne went on Twitter and he was kind of like questioning, the decision on this, because he led all the stats that you're seeing right here on your screen. Brother, you are trying to protest that a 47 strike performance is winning you a fight. I don't know, but either way, I could digress. You could land 50 and maybe we'll talk about it, but
Well, I
what?
mean, to the 39 on the other
I
side.
mean,
But
I get it, but I'm just
anyway,
saying, you
no,
can be more
honestly,
convincing with your arguments, is what I'm
bro,
saying, Ode.
yeah, no, well, you're exactly right there. I mean, take the judges out of the equation, and then you never have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do kind of see a little bit like after the rewatch because in on the watch along, I thought like everybody else, I was like, oh yeah, the last two for Ersk, but so let me break it down just a little bit here. So Ode was chasing Steve down early in this fight, but not actually being aggressive in the attack until he finally got that stagger shot. That should, I mean, like it bothers me. Like that's why when you said that, they didn't count it as a knockdown. Like there has to be another category then to me because like if you have a shot like that where you clearly see that he was affected, like should
It's a
that not be?
wobble.
Yeah, it's like have a wobble stat then, a stagger stat. I don't know, whatever you want to do, but I'm just saying like it's annoying to me when like it's clearly a trajectory changing moment in a fight that doesn't end up being properly given its due,
There needs to be like an overarching number, like in the NBA, they have like a plus and minus where everything that you do is tallied, it can be good or bad, like a turnover is minus points and, an assist is plus points. So
They have
UFC,
that. I mean, they have that on the advanced stats, but
right. So we need to make that more a common household thing, like
and
let's get these going so we can, consistently see who's making the better judgment calls in the moments, that they're given. But
yeah, and maybe have certain things like weighted differently, perhaps. But anyway, whatever. Just wanted to note that at the
yeah,
very
go
least.
ahead.
But so yeah, I mean, the check hook got Ersk to take the knee. More shots thereafter. Steve was in some hairy situations early, I would say, but not. I mean, obviously, he stayed in it. The second round felt pretty close. I mean, it was kind of active in small bursts more than anything. It was hard to say that either guy won it definitively, especially after the rewatch. In the watch, I thought that Ersk took it, but like rewatching it, I was like, man, I mean, there was like this could have had a pretty solid case for being a draw because of that. But so, I mean, I thought that it was a great note in Ode's corner going into the third round because of how close that second round was. It said, we need optics. The story of this card to me was optics. Optics was playing such a heavy factor when it came to the judging, and I think that in this fight was no different. I think that so many fighters in general just need to hear that terms. Like, look, not every time do you need to be going out there and pointing to the ground like Max. I mean, just sometimes you just need to look the part a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, and this is a fight where I think that Ersk kind of took over towards the end to like drive that point home. So shout out to Dewey Cooper for that one. But as far as on the note goes on O'Day's corner, but Ersk gets the takedown halfway through the third. Took the round pretty handily, I would say, but round 2 was definitely the decider because of all of that. So was 29-28 the right call? Yes, but what was it the right call for Ersk? I mean, I was a little bit on the fence. I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? It's not one that I'm going to be like banging my fists about, but I do think that there is some room for O'Day to be making the statements that he's making. Just to a minor extent. You make a good point. You need to win it definitively, and the optics could have done that. And I said that it seemed like minor adjustments could have been the thing that would have gotten O'Day over that hump. He just, like it was just a couple of little things here and there, like being a little bit more aggressive at the right times and not letting Steve have his way at certain times in that third round. But that's really all that it was.
Once again, this should just show you the skill differential in the flyweight division that these guys will always put on when it's top of the guys, when it's people that are, top 10 and below. The margins are so small. They're always going to have close performances. It's just what's going to happen. Look at Tyra and Royval and Van, Ersk and O'Day, Ersk and Pantoja, whatever you want to say. I think this division is just jam-packed full of talent, of guys that can do everything, and there's so many things that you're going to continue to see, and they're going to continue to shove Steve Ersk down your face now. So that's a plus, I guess, if you really like this guy.
Well, I mean, you speak of the ranks real quick. I did want to mention that this was yet another very funny DC moment where DC did not know Steve Ersk's rank. So he at one point said that Steve Ersk is ranked 3rd, and then he said he's ranked 4th. And then he like got the call into his ear, and the truck told him that he's actually ranked 10th.
Nice.
So I was like, yep, more quality DC commentating there. So, but yeah, no, I mean, as far as the fight goes, you make a good point about the flyweights being as competitive as they are, and at the level that these two are at, it's going to be these types of fights for sure. And then you get like a scaling up of the intensity and the skill level, but it's still competitive even at that scale. So I was not terribly mad at this fight. I like Steve as a person. It's like you said, he's an endearing character. I think the hot shotting might have thrown off the way that he's perceived a little bit because of all of the weird stuff that we've outlined in his career before. So seeing him back in the win column is not something that I'm mad about. I do think that like if there was a fight on this card where a draw probably would have been appropriate, it certainly could have been this one.
No, 100%. Yeah, it just sucks to see because, one, it's not necessarily sucks to see for Ersk. It was nice to see him win one where I thought like he earned it. You're talking about O'Day probably won it in the rewatch, but I think Ersk winning this was fine. I think he did earn this, but it's just unfortunate the level of competition that he's earning it against. And I know I just said that the competition level is very slim, but O'Day Osborne is not the top of the game. His slim level compared to Ersk, I mean, that's a big level compared for him and, Pantoja kind of deal. So
yeah,
it's just what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, not that he necessarily even like won it, but that second round was close enough that there is at least a little bit of wiggle room, margin for error / something to say about it, I guess. But like I said, I think that the draw would have been more appropriate, honestly, in this case, because it really was like short bursts of effectiveness throughout for both sides, kind of thing, and then 1-1 on the other side. So, again, not mad at it. It's just you got to be great, and that's the unfortunate last word in this sport. It's that the greatness is what is going to separate you, and if you can't eke that out, then this is what you end up with.
Oh yeah, I agree.
All right, and moving on to the main event of the evening, Roman Delidze versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez here. Coming into this fight, DC said that Roman Delidze, before the fight started, noted that Fluffy does not push the pace while he's standing. I said, oh, brother.
I I think I'm hoping this is the case. And when I talked on Monday, I had a lot of faith in Roman to not be what Fluffy's other opponents had been. And I hope I didn't misconstrue the way that I was feeling. If I came off thinking that Fluffy Hernandez was not the dark horse of the division, my apologies. I had just figured that Roman Delidze was going to be a more difficult opponent. But in that, I also believe that this would be the performance that Fluffy is going to overcome and be, that's going to show the next level of him. Like that is that that like there is no more fucking around with this guy. If he is able to beat Delidze, and that's even just beat him, if he's able to beat Delidze, that would show something. The fact that he manhandles him for 4 rounds, and then we'll talk about the finish here in a second, manhandles him for 4 rounds, does anything he wants to him, lets him up every single time. Delidze actually enjoying the thought that he's letting him up every time to throw him back down. He gets up with a smile on his face every single fucking time just to get thrown back down. And Delidze is not somebody that I thought would have let that happen. Even Dom Cruz, I actually like Dom because sometimes we have the same opinion and it makes me feel like I'm actually smart. And because I do take Dom's opinion very seriously. He's like, I didn't think Roman Delidze, even he said at the beginning, like Roman Delidze is not going to be the guy that just gets pushed around like this. At least I don't believe so. Something like that. And I
Yeah.
thought that was exactly what I was thinking. And boy, was I wrong. Fluffy, the pace that he has, the cardio that he's able to use is absolutely phenomenal. And then the ending sequence is the perfect example of just how easy he can switch on the kill. Because Roman Delidze is down on his knees and he gets kneed in the head and he looks up to complain at the ref after he had just gotten a point taken for grabbing the fence for the 18th time. And as soon as he looks up to talk to Herb or whoever it is, he gets his head ripped straight off his fucking shoulders. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious because not only could Fluffy have probably done that any other time, it was the moment in time that Roman looks up to complain to the ref. That's when he finally gets the fight ended for him because he was getting battered for 4 rounds and could have had a TKO if he wanted to. But Fluffy just wanted to make it gruesome, and I thought this was the dark horse performance that I needed to see. I knew was possible, and that was the proven scenario that Fluffy is the next guy. Like, I mean, genuinely give him Hamzat right now. Like, and I think it would be interesting. So, whatever.
Sure. Yeah. There was a point about halfway through the second round where I literally said on the watch along, I can't believe there's 3 more rounds of this coming up. Obviously we didn't know that there was gonna be a finish, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it was to that point that early in the fight. Roman had some very brief moments in the first round where some of his striking was okay, but it was just okay. And then this was just a demolition affair on the Fluffy side for the remainder of this fight. This was the most clear big brothering that we've seen in quite some time. It's not entirely uncommon to hear fighters say that they're going to beat people at their own game. Some fighters will say that, oh, well, he does this, so I'm going to do it better than him. Fluffy Hernandez comes out here and does that shit because I think that the majority of people, myself included, just thought of Fluffy as a guy who will go in there, stick to you like glue, not let you stand back up, or stand you back up to take you back down again, which he did a whole bunch in this fight. But really more of just like, I'm going to go out there and just, be an octopus, I'm going to be all over you and just kind of absorb him. His stand up is really good. He's got some hands. I was like, it was nice to see him kind of spreading his wings a little bit in that regard, because I feel like the last 2 or 3 performances, we hadn't seen as much of that. Or at least if we saw it in spurts, it was always in service of just getting another takedown. And there was an element of that here, but when he was forced to have to swing, it wasn't even like he was being forced at times. I mean, it was like, okay, well, if you want to do that for a little while, I'll just beat you up here and then I'll take you back down. I'll do what I need to do on the ground. I'll beat you up again up here. He did anything and everything that he wanted to in this fight. I mean, once he got his game plan in motion, this was one of the worst big brotherings that we've seen, just down and up and down. I mean, Roman looked gassed by the end of round 1, and Fluffy's cardio at middleweight is almost superhuman. So
Yeah.
you know, it was just a relentless performance that kept going and going and going. I felt bad for you know, for Nixick at one point. You know, Nixick is Delidze's coach, and you know, he was saying, like, because he told Roman to do the step in elbow that he kept doing, and at one time I was like, you it's funny if you go back to the watch along for this reason, because like when he did it the first time I was like, nifty move, I like that move, you know. But then he kept going to that well, and it was way past the point of it being at all possible to be doing anything, and I
Mhm.
was like, stop going back to that, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, you're getting demolished over here, and like, you know, Nixon got to the point where he's like, dude, you're gonna have to get a finish, like there's nothing else coming over here. And then that was the round that Roman gets his head taken off.
Yeah, what sucks about this performance is like, well, it doesn't necessarily suck. It sucks for the optics of of like the casual viewers. Is because when you're watching this and you're somebody who's locked into the sport, you could see that Fluffy is doing, like you said, superhuman things with his cardio, and the pace that he's able to put on is insane. But when you're watching this performance here live, you are watching Roman Dolidze get so outclassed that it is genuinely just not even funny. Like you're watching it and you're like, oh, he took him down again. Like, oh, he took him down again. Like, and then your face is just stale at a certain point because nothing new is happening. There's not really like the excitement to it. Like when the finish comes, you're like, oh shit, he like actually. But when he's doing the same thing over and over and over again, you can understand how gruesome that is as his opponent, but the optics for like the casual fan, it's not the oohs and ahs that you're expecting because it's just him riding his opponent. No Diddy. So
He was like a taskmaster, you know. It
yeah,
was like, you're down, now get back up. You're down, now get back up. I mean, like, he was like, it was an amazing flow state of control that he was in. One thing I wanted to note about those the times that they were on the ground is that Fluffy does like small chain wrestling, which is like an interesting thing if you're able to do it, because like he has two moves that he basically picks. Like, he'll get the takedown. He picks a pair of positions. Like Dom was talking about this at one point, where it's like he goes from the guillotine, switches it back around to the back, does a little bit work back there, pushes off, now get back up. And then it's repeating that same pattern. So it's like, it's not a full chain in the sense that it's like position, 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 position. He doesn't care about getting submissions. He is doing this to punish you. Like, he is saying, I have better cardio, I have better skills, I am a more well-rounded fighter in this moment, and you are going to do what I tell you to do. And
yeah.
like, it's just, it was really like, it's like you said, it gets to a point where it's like, damn, man, this is like, you're kind of getting exhausted watching this dude getting exhausted, you know?
I remember saying last fight with Michelle, like, Fluffy is the prime example of somebody who plays with his food. Like he's not going for the quick finish. He's gonna make you want out before he gets you out of there. And you could tell with Roman, he was getting tired of it. And and this is for somebody like Roman. I mean, he's had tough matchups, but a lot of people have just never had a matchup like Fluffy, where he's just legitly just wrestling you, dropping you on your butt, and then making you stand up. Because I think his goal at the end of the day was for Roman to just not get up. And, that would have been a very impressive performance for him to do that. But he kept getting up, and then he made that call. And then finally, he wanted the cries to the ref is the call that I make. And then he cries to the ref and then gets his head choked off. And I thought that was just hilarious and very fitting. And Fluffy is just genuinely a scary dude to go up against. And I know this is recency bias. I'm even feeling that as I say it, like out loud. Like even after the performance, I was thinking like, man, it sucks that it was such a dominant performance because like, man, we are gonna believe that this guy he's got the rocket now. So I think that's what sucks because if he doesn't live up to that, then man, I'm gonna feel stupid. But as of right now, I'm really believing in it, and I
No,
know.
but I don't agree with that though, because the dude, like, it's not recency bias. He's on an 8-fight win streak now. So I mean, like, it's recency for us maybe paying as close attention, but the dude has been doing it. I mean, like, he's been out
No,
there winning.
I don't mean it in the sense of like him having a win streak. He's just now getting it. I say it as like the recency bias is like, oh well, he can beat DDP now. Like
Well, see, but so I'll even disagree with that too, though, because like now, after seeing the fact that he has the stand up to match the wrestling ability, that's where it turned my head. because if he had gone out there and like dragged him down again and had a same performance like he did against Brendan Allen, or even Michel Pereira, I would have been like, he does one thing really, really well, has the cardio to back that up. Is that good enough to stand with the top of the division? After seeing him strike too and being that tough and being that versatile, I'm like, I'm a believer, man. I really am. I'm like Roman Delidze is not the example that you want to have like that happen against in order to make your entire opinion. But when you pair that performance with all of the other wins and what we've already seen out of him, I mean, it just is what it is as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think that you got to recognize the reality, and Fluffy's the truth.
I definitely agree with that's where I'm leading it, but I would just this would hurt that if I was wrong about this one, this would hurt. And and 8-fight win streak. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to go on 30 more and win and never lose. Like if he loses one, that's okay. But if he looks fine in defeat, fighting for the belt or something like that, that's fine. But I just really don't want him to flare out and look like a bum here soon, and that's my biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean that understandable. I think that he has proven that he is certainly worthy of the shot to see if he's at that level at this point. I was thinking that maybe the loser of Kaio and Imamov at that upcoming fights going on in Paris, I believe, right?
Yep.
So, whoever wins that gets the title shot. Whoever loses that gets to fight him, and then that becomes the next title eliminator. That seems to make sense in my mind, at least. And then Roman, thanks for everything. Back to the dead center of mid-tier you go.
Yeah. Yep. So
yeah,
that's what it is.
Is what it is indeed. Fluffy, dominant. Shout out to Didgeridoo Dave. He said Fluffy wanted to take Roman's head home as a souvenir. He certainly accomplished that. That was the only other note that I had, was that at one point on the watch along around round 3, I was like, the only problem with Fluffy is that he's not a finisher. And he shut me up real quick with the finish. So
He finished Michel too.
Yeah, Michel finished himself though. I mean,
True.
like that cardio was so good. I've never seen that's a prime example of a dude who gassed out in the first 30 seconds of a fight.
Yeah, 100% agree. On full camp too, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, but no, Fluffy is the truth, and future is bright for the dark horse, perhaps.
I agree.
All right, and that is UFC Fight Night, Delidze versus Hernandez. After talking it through, Chase, your final thoughts.
I thought this was pretty good. Another Apex card where, this one they didn't blow out of proportion and say it was like one of the greatest of all times, like, the other week. But this one was definitely up there with a list of decent Apex cards. They're hard to rank because they're all so magical in their own way.
Nice way to put it. I like that little flourish there. I liked it too. Aside from the terrible, bizarre outer space judging, I really enjoyed this card. I thought it really delivered. I felt bad for a couple of people who I felt kind of got robbed, but other than that, we got a potential knockout of the year in the slam from Elijah Smith. We got a crazy dominant performance out of Fluffy, who was a fighter that I like very much. So yeah, I really I enjoyed this card a lot. At the end of the day, I was very, very happy with this one.
Hell yeah.
All right. That all being said, before we move on to next week, do want to make the note that tomorrow the Contender Series starts, and it starts early. So make sure that you are there on time, people. 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when it starts. And then I believe that the finale, or not the finale, but the last episode of the Ultimate Fighter proper is going to be directly after that. So are you doing watch alongs for both?
Yes, we'll be doing watch alongs for both. And yes, so on this week's card, there will be the finale of Tough. That is this week. So,
well, I mean, the last episode, but then last fights have to happen.
Scroll down.
Oh, right. Scroll down what?
Scroll down on the page right now.
Okay.
All the way down.
Oh, on this card okay.
Yep. So
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that at the end here in just a few.
Okay, cool. Got you. Thank you for clarifying that. So, okay, the finale of Tough is going to be coming up on this card this weekend.
Yes.
So, all right. So the last episode of the show is tomorrow. Finale is on Saturday.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Now we got that cleared up. UFC 319 is Plessis versus Chimaev. Even before we get into the fight itself proper here, I do want to say that I have been very happy that we have a fight that seems to be generating this much interest, because it does feel like we've had a number of pay-per-views recently, or premium events that have had main events that have not inspired the fan base in a way. We've obviously Dustin's retirement fight was going to be what it's going to be because he was retiring. We've had a couple of other ones that stick out if you go back through the list where it's been like, yeah, that fight is fine for a pay-per-view, but like it's not something that generates a lot of buzz, a lot of conversation. This fight has been doing that, and I certainly appreciate that at least. So that all being said, what are your thoughts, Chase?
I think this one is going to be pretty fun. This fight specifically, I'm very excited to see what the outcome is. Whether it's going to be a round one finish for Dricus, or I'm sorry, for Hamzat, or a decision by Dricus, I don't know. I genuinely think I'm flipping sides towards the week coming. I think Hamzat is going to be my pick, but we still have a lot of unanswered questions for him. And I think DDP has answered more questions than he has left unanswered. And I think maybe I just have to ride with my boy, and DDP decision is the thing that's good. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the conventional wisdom says that Hamzat in round one and the first half of round two is going to go full steam ahead, full bore. He's obviously I talk about fast starters in this sport. I think that Hamzat is the fastest. So, you've seen the results that come from that. I have been saying this week that I believe that if there is any fighter who has the ability to navigate that, it would be Dricus. Dricus has been a fighter that, with his odd, unorthodox style, has been counted out a lot in his career before he was the champion. And now, as the champion, has proven that whether or not it's technically pretty, he has the ability to navigate a fight in an effective manner that gets him to the victory. That all being said, can Hamzat negate that just by being as great as he is? There is potential for that. And I mean, I'm not saying that they're at all on the same plane currently, but I have referenced several times how disappointed I was with Rob Whittaker in his fight with Hamzat. Can he do something like that against Dricus? I would say probably not, but there's always a chance that that could happen. So, I mean, being on the fence about this, I would say that I'm probably maybe in like the 60-40 camp in thinking that Dricus is going to be able to overcome everything, but that's how close that it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a dead 50-50, but like I'm only slightly confident in Dricus being able to pull it off because Hamzat is who he is and does what he does.
Yeah, I think what we know is Hamzat's double leg is unstoppable, and what I think is going to happen is that Hamzat is going to double leg DDP, and we don't see people get out of his grip. I mean, we did with Gilbert Burns, and maybe that's going to speak volumes in this fight. But I'm going to lead to believe that Hamzat does what he did to Kevin Holland and just gets a good grip real early, and we ride some grappling until maybe the end of the first round, and then it gets interesting. But if it makes it out the first, that's the only thing we can hope for.
Well, let me ask you a question then, and I think this might illuminate a little bit, perhaps. How much do you take what you saw in the Kamaru Usman fight into consideration here?
I never really think about that fight, to be honest. It's the Gilbert Burns one that I really think about, is because that dude really went life and death with Gilbert Burns. But Gilbert Burns also arguably could have been fighting for a belt after he just beat JDM, unanimous decision or something, whatever you want to say. But Hamzat, I don't know. I think this is just a stylistic matchup where, I know I sent you the video and DDP's coach talking about how they want to wrestle with Hamzat. They don't want to avoid it. They're stupid. I think they're gonna fall right into a stupid plan because this dude out wrestles everybody. So why
Well,
would
see,
you want that? But
but that's
whatever.
why I asked you about the Kamaru fight, is because that was the fight that I'm not saying that Dricus and Kamaru are the same type of wrestler. But what we saw in the Kamaru fight that was different than the Burns fight is that Kamaru ended up wearing down Hamzat via wrestling. So like I feel like there's maybe some better comparison there in what the game plan could be if they actually are sticking to that game plan. I mean, that can all be gamesmanship too. Who knows how much stuff they're putting out online just to
Right. No,
go the opposite direction. You can never. What happens in the cage is what we care about, obviously. But that all being said, if Dricus is planning on trying to use a fight fire with fire approach in this fight, then I do think that maybe there are some notes to be gleaned from the Kamaru Usman fight, because Kamaru was a dude who people had, the conventional wisdom was, oh, if this was a 5-round fight, who knows how it could have gone, that kind of thing. This is a 5-round fight. So
I just
maybe
think
there's
what's
something there.
also to note about the Kamaru Usman fight is that Hamzat had the choke locked in, and then Kamaru Usman threw himself almost unconsciously into the mat to get him off of him. And I just think, that's a move that you got to be willing to make. And it may or may not work, that it worked against that one time, but will DDP be the dude who throws his face into the mat and gets it to work? Probably. He's got plot armor, but I think Hamzat, I don't know. I think I'm really leaning in towards the Hamzat submission. And I hate to say it because DDP's my guy. This is one of my favorite guys. But if I'm just being real at what I see, nobody stops that double leg. So.
All right. So final answer. You're going Hamzat?
Yeah, I'll go Hamzat.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Dricus du Plessis. And as you know by now, people, 2 different streams going simultaneously, one on my channel, one on Chase's. Like the stream that you think has the better takes here in our predictions. So
hell yeah.
All right. Well, that is the main event. Let's move on down the line here. Of course, the wild card in this one, Lerone Murphy versus the newcomer to the UFC, Aaron Pico. Not a newcomer to the sport, though, 13-4. What do you think?
I don't want to talk too much about this one because it should be a clear-cut decision. This guy has lost 4 times in Bellator. Lerone Murphy has never lost, and he's 16-0, and he's fought 8 times in the UFC or something, 6 times, whatever it is. He's genuinely that good. He's not somebody that is evasive like a pansy. He's evasive in the manner that he's not going to let you hit him until he's ready to strike. And then he is standing and banging with the best of them. Dropping Dan Ige was impressive, but go ahead.
Well, no, I say the issue, I think, and what people are maybe riding on is the fact that Pico is such a high-level wrestler. So that, I mean, is Lerone Murphy's takedown defense going to be able to negate that is probably the reason that Pico is such a favorite in this fight. That all being said, I've been very vocal on this show about not giving credence to anything that happens outside of the UFC anymore. Show me what you can do inside of the organization and we'll talk. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think that he's probably going to go in there and try to tie him up. And this is going to be a big test of Lerone Murphy's takedown defense for sure. That being said, hands will negate takedowns pretty well if you can get enough of them in your opponent's face.
Minus 200 is nuts. Just saying. But I mean, Lerone is 34 for a prospect, 16-0. But what? I've heard that a lot, and I just thought about it myself. Yeah, 34 is a little aged for somebody who's a prospect. But guys, he's 16-0. I mean, that's a decent career for being 34. I mean, we've seen Hyder Emil is 11-0 at 35. We've seen worse. Lerone Murphy's still on the prime of his career. He's not looking out of shape. He shows up with a fucking 6-pack every time. He's not Christian Rodriguez. We could go on for days, but minus 200 for Aaron Pico, just no way. Just no way.
Yeah, I mean, 34 is champion age. You know what I mean? This is
It's
prime age. I mean,
right at the end of it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know. I think people put a little bit too much stock into the number. To me, that's yeah, if you're getting into the 38s, then okay. But I think that anywhere between 32 and 36 is sort of its own little category. And to me, I don't take the exact, because you mean to tell me then that if you saw the number 32, then all of a sudden this conversation is completely different. To me, it just doesn't equate,
No, but I would be a little more confident that he would never get finished by this dude if he was 32.
I mean, you should be more confident in the fact that he's coming in out of Bellator.
I mean, I agree. I mean, he's not that great of a prospect if he's in Bellator and he's getting finished by people. But, I digress. Lerone Murphy is the clear-cut decision on this one. He will win. He's fought UFC competition, and he's fought, veterans of the UFC. So these are people that they know how to win against people like Lerone, and Lerone figured out how to beat them. And Aaron Pico is nothing short of somebody that's just lower level competition, and it's going to look bad on the matchmakers because we're going to see Lerone put a beating on Aaron Pico, and we're going to say this was bad for them to put Pico in this matchup. It was just shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to stick with my guns on this one too, and just say that like if Pico comes in here and proves us completely wrong, then okay, maybe there's a different conversation to have after that. But until I see it, then Bellator does not equate. That's
Yeah,
point blank period. So show me what you can do against someone of Lerone Murphy's caliber. Then we have a different conversation thereafter. But going into this one, got to go Murphy all the way.
hell yeah,
Shout out to Bloomis, the legend himself, checking in. Appreciate you, brother. Good to see
hell
you.
yeah, Bloomis, appreciate you, man.
All right. Well, moving on down this card a little bit more. Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Of course, Carlos coming off of his first loss. Well, I mean, first major loss, I would say. Obviously, he's got a couple on his record. Don't get that twisted. But I mean, he was on a very hot streak for a long time, coming off of a loss now, finally after surging in a major way, going up against Jeff Neal, who's kind of one of those like solid, durable, middle of the road fighters. How do you see this one playing out?
I think durable is the exact word that you should use when talking about Jeff Deal. He's somebody that's going to go in here and take an insane amount of damage, and is probably not going to get finished by Carlos Prates. That's my best bet here. Carlos Prates will probably put a style on Jeff Neal all the way until a decision. And I know people are going to say that I'm stupid because Carlos Prates is a finisher and he has a high finish rate. But like, guys, when you get to the higher level of the game, there's certain people that are just not going to be able to finish each other, and I think this is going to be one of those matchups. Jeff Neal went through a war with Shavkat, and Shavkat is definitely not the striker that Carlos is, which should be telling of why Carlos will butcher him on the feet, but he was able to go to war with Shavkat, and the only way he was able to get put out was by a submission. Pratis is not doing all that, but he will, like I said, butcher him. He's going to look for that shot, and he's going to, get that knee, get that elbow, do whatever he's going to look for that's going to be that final blow. But the thing is Jeff Neal will eat it every time. So,
Yeah, I think this is a pretty accurate assessment. However, the only thing that I will note is that Pratis did not look himself in his last fight. I want to say, like, I felt like there was a weird, like, holding back to an extent that he was doing. It was a 5-rounder. So, maybe there's some element of that. Maybe he was scaling. I don't know exactly what was going on in that fight, but he did not look like the same world ender that we had seen in his previous performances. That being said, this is more of the same caliber type of fight that he was ending worlds in to get to that 5-round fight in the first place. So
yeah.
all of those factors being as they are, yeah, I would say that that Prates pretty well has this in the bag. I would think. I mean, Neal is he's just basic. I hate to say. I mean, like that's really the unfortunate element of it because I do like him as a dude. I think he's a good guy and all that, but like he's not very dynamic. He's not very crafty. Pratis is those things. So at the end of the day, I think that's where the assessment comes from for me.
100%. I definitely agree Pratis is going to just make light work of this, but to decision, it's not going to be a finish, of course.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, maybe he catches him with the body shot, but it would be surprising if that was the case. But speaking of crafty, now let's move down to this one here. Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. Now, Venom Page is crafty, and this is what I worry about in this fight with one of my all-time favorites, Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, this is definitely an unk fight right here. 38-41 is pretty nuts, but these dudes are going to put on one hell of a performance. Jared is one of my actual favorites now because, the performance that I've seen this dude, the heart that he's shown has been tremendous, and he's obviously so fun to watch. Michael Venom Page, somebody that is willing to fight whenever, whoever the fuck he wants. I mean, he'll do whatever. And shout out to him for that. It should be a fun performance. He's never shy of a fun performance, and Jared is a good opponent to have a fun performance against. I don't know who I'm going to pick in this one. When it comes to Jared, and from what I've seen, he's not somebody that I would say I envision him beating somebody like, an Izzy or, an MVP or something like that. But If people want to tell me that they were close and he beat the hell out of Sean Strickland, okay, well, sure, we'll see.
Yeah, the issue to me here is that Michael Venom Page is a dude who defies his age with his speed.
Hmm.
He's still so fast. He's fast and crafty, and those are two skill sets that I think are perfectly matched against a slower, sluggier, heavier-handed Jared Cannonier. And as a huge fan, that hurts to say, but I really think that this is an unfortunate case where MVP is going to be able to really get his way,
Hmm.
and he'll be able to dance his way around the outside. He's going to be able to do all of his little flourishy style things. He'll be able to get his spins off. And I'm not saying that all of those are going to be like kill shots or that they're all
Right.
going to be overly effective. I'm saying that he's going to have the fight that he wants in an opponent like Cannonier, because Cannonier is going to just be that one step, like that half step behind as far as the speed goes. And when you give MVP that much runway, he takes it and he runs with it. So
Yes.
that's the thing that worries me the most here. Now, I mean, Jared might be able to land a heavy shot that changes the trajectory. It might be able to slow MVP down if he works the body a good amount and can get his hands on him that way. I'd say that might be an effective strategy. I just, on paper, I don't see that happening. And again, it's because, like, think about the RoboCop fight, right?
Hmm.
That was a great example of a dude who was pace wise very similar to Jared, in my opinion. Like, RoboCop will be aggressive and he has heavy hands, but like when he starts to wear down, then Jared's able to pull ahead in the speed department because the diminishing of an even level, puts him ahead in the race.
Yeah.
With MVP, I don't see that.
No, I 100% agree. I think Bloomis is right too. MVP is just not slowing down. He's a little younger, and the movement is still way levels beyond where it should be. And Jared is one of these guys that just absorbs damage. So I think a decision is very likely for MVP.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, I think that MVP by decision is probably the smartest call on this one. Like I said, if Jared has a specific game plan that is tailor made for MVP and is able to enact it very early in the fight, maybe there's some chance there. But I just don't see it, at least not on paper.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Moving on here. This is a fight I really like. This is a fun one in the making. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. I think that this is a much more appropriate level of competition for Asakura, as opposed to having been kind of high, sort of hot-shotted into, very high levels of this sport in the UFC and his entry point. So Tim Elliott is a very crafty guy on the ground. This has potential for a lot of fun scrambles and, some crazy wrestling exchanges. So I like this fight. I think that there's a good time ahead on this one.
I think the potential that you have for crazy scrambles and crazy wrestling is all going to be shut down instantly because I think Kai Asakura is going to finish Tim Elliott in the first round. I think, yeah,
Where
yep,
is that coming from?
because he's an amazing striker. Just,
Okay.
just trust me. Tim Elliott is one of these dudes that has 13 losses. You want to call him a vet, but it looks like he's just a lamb to me. Kaya Sakura is somebody with striking that, in my opinion, if it was anybody other than Pantoja with his granite chin, the shots that Asakura landed would have put somebody out. And he's very good. I think he's very talented. I know some people don't see it because he got smoked by Pantoja, but what do you expect? I mean, he's in a different promotion where the landscape of the talent is 10 times different. The way that they utilize their skills is different. It's different, rule sets and scorings. Everything was against this guy, and he went in there with nothing to lose and the idea that he's gonna, shock the world. Now you give him a guy just named Tim Elliott. I mean, what do you think's gonna happen? I can tell you, he's gonna finish him first round,
All right.
genuinely.
I mean, look, I started off the portion here by saying this is a much more appropriate fight for him. So I guess I can see it in that regard. Elliot is a dude who is creative. So I do believe that there is potential for him to be able to evade. He is fast enough, I want to say 38. Yeah, probably pushing it a little bit in that regard. The speed probably has diminished a decent amount. Um, I want to believe that Tim Elliott might be able to get him down and maybe work the legs maybe a little bit, going for some kind of like calf slicer type of dealies. Like I like Tim Elliott is creative is what I'm getting at with that. So maybe there is potential there. If Asakura really is about that striking life like that, I mean, Ryzen would certainly give you that impression. I'll have to see it, but you know what? I'll take your word for it on it. Fine.
Hell yeah, I think Asakura round 1 KO coming for you.
All right. I mean, I'll agree that Asakura wins the fight. Maybe it's a little bit later and more competitive than that.
Okay.
How about that? I think that's a solid middle compromise there.
I'll deal with it.
All right. Well, let's move on here. King Bobby Green versus Diego Ferreira. I know that you had some opinions about this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as the fight is coming down to it, I have less opinions about it. Again, this is just an unk fight, 38-40. Like, why can't we get young talent on pay-per-views? But whatever. King Green coming off performances that aren't necessarily horrible. I mean, Bobby Green Bobby Green got submitted by Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, but Paddy's on his way up. The performance before that, he styled on what's his name? Fucking Jim Miller. I almost said Jim Gordon, Batman's fucking sheriff or whatever that is. But yeah, Diego Ferreira is not somebody that I necessarily have a lot of stock in because I don't remember seeing this dude ever do anything in my lifetime, but he has finished Rebecki, so he must be pretty damn good. I'll go ahead and take him against Bobby Green, unless Bobby Green is going to style on him from the outside like he did and not shoot takedowns. I don't know why he did that against Paddy, but whatever. So
yeah, Bobby Green navigates fights in a strange way sometimes. He obviously not even just counting the fact that he does the whole hands low, face right in front of you kind of thing, trying to bait you. Like, it's just he makes odd decisions and odd choices mid-fight.
mhm.
And that's the thing that I worry about with him because I'm a fan. I do think that that he's an effective striker when he's in his rhythm. The Jim Miller fight is a great example of that. When he's able to enact the game plan, it goes off without a hitch. If there's a curveball in there, then it can go sideways very, very quickly. And also, we've seen Bobby Green get knocked out pretty brutally, a couple of times at this point. I tend to believe that he's going to be able to return to form with this one a little bit more. So I'm leaning in his direction on this. Line is close. I like it is stats on paper kind of close too. Ferreira is not like an overwhelmingly like someone who gives me like a lot of confidence just in and of himself. So I want to believe that Bobby Green can pull this off. Would I be surprised if it doesn't go that way because of some weird shit? Not at all. Not in the slightest. So
Yeah.
all of that being said, I will tentatively pick King Green to win this fight, but when it does not go my way, I will completely own that.
Yeah, 100%. I do like the Bobby pick, but Bloomis has actually given some good information. He's a kill or be killed kind of guy. Diego probably is going to finish him, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, another kill or be kill kind of deal, which is always entertaining in some capacity. Can Bobby be the killer? I think
Yeah.
is the question, and I think that he always like that. That is why Bobby Green has stuck around for as long as he has, is because there's always that chance. And I do still think that guy is still in there. You know what I mean? Like because this is coming from a dude like if you go back to older episodes of this show, like I was already saying like, when's it going to be time for Bobby to start thinking about hanging it up after the Jalen Turner incident?
Right.
I mean, that was one was like, bro, I mean, like, he came back on short turnaround after one of the most brutal late stoppages of all time. And it was like, dude, are you even like mentally sound to do
Right.
that? And he still held his own to an extent. So like, you really can never count him out, is I guess what I'm saying. And I want to believe that this is one that'll go his way.
I agree. I 100% would like to believe Bobby Green gets this done because Diego Ferreira is somebody that I just say who when I see his name, but
Right.
it is what it is.
All right. So you're going to go with Fajeda on this one?
No, I'll go with King Green. No,
Oh, all right. There you go. All right. So fair enough then. Hopefully Bobby gets it done for us over here. Moving on down, though, one of my other OG favorites, GM3, Gerald Meerschaert versus Mikhail Olashechuk. This is an odd fight to me.
This is goofballs paradise right here. I mean, I don't want to make a pick on who's going to win this one because these dudes are just going to come out here. One of them would break their arm without even throwing a punch, and that's just the way that it would go. The anvil falling on one of them is type finish on this, you know. So I don't know. Roadrunner painting on a wall by Michael Olashechuk. You know, we'll see.
I mean, fair, but I think that that's doing a discredit to the GOAT Gerald Meerschaert here, who even in defeat still ends up making matches competitive, even if they're not competitive. That sounds counterintuitive when you say it out loud, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, I mean, the Renier de Ritter fight is exactly that. That fight was like such an odd loss for him, and it was competitive, even though it was a slop fest. That was, you remember, that was Renier de Ritter's first foray into the UFC, and we were all kind of like, okay, I mean, he gets the win, but like, is this guy really that thing? And then he finally became what he became, and now we're seeing something different. But like at the time, that was Gerald Meerschaert who made that way. So to me, I'm like, Gerald Meerschaert comes in here and just somehow, some way makes this a dirty wrestle fuck affair. And you know, I like Olashechuk. Okay. I mean, like, he's not like a dude that I actively root against, but he is a guy who's very spotty, and has, you know, a couple of those like stretches of losses. I think that Gerald gets this done. I'm riding with my boy over here, man. The mustache rules.
I'm riding with the Fighting Nerds. Michael Olashechuk is gonna win this one. So
I did forget that he is another one of those dudes that has gone down there and done the Brazilian treatment with the glasses with the tape in the middle. So maybe that, you know, look, we did see that work just recently in that one fight there with Adolfo, exactly. So you know, I'm not saying that there's not stock to be had in that. I just think that the Gerald Meerschaert is one of those dudes that just like he's the last of an ancient breed. You know what I mean? One of those old road doggy guys that just figures out a way, makes it dirty, and comes out on top sometimes. Yeah, I'm thinking that this will be another one of those.
Yep.
All right. Jessica Andrade versus Lupi Godinez. Andrade, a fighter who has just gone so far from the spot that she was at. We're talking about a former champion here, but I mean, like, the fall off for Andrade has just been like watching it in real time, kind of a sad state of affairs, in my opinion, because she's someone that I had a lot of stock into, a lot of stock in earlier in her career. Godinez has hit a little bit of a skid, so this is maybe good matchmaking. What do you think's happening here?
Lupi's actually coming off of a W, by the way, and she is doing well. And I think Andrade is just the name that they want her to get on her resume and get her up out of there, because Lupi, at heart, grappler. She's going to get Andrade down, and Andrade is just going to lay on her back. I mean, there's going to be no other question to it. And what you also may forget is Lupi Godinez is coming off of a unanimous decision, but that was after 3 gruesome rounds where she had to use the bathroom. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. When you say it, I do. Yes.
So, you know, you got to assume she's going to handle her business before the fight this time, and she's going to have 10 times the performance that you saw last time.
Well, and let me clarify. Yes, she is coming off of a win. But when I say a skid, I mean, like, she was on a win streak for a while. Mm-hmm. So that's more of what I'm talking about, is that, like, you know, because I, for a while with Lupi, was like that. She was, to me, like, signaling the formative era, like the formative stages of somebody who had champion potential on the run that she was on. When the losses start to creep in there a little bit, you know, you question it just to an extent.
Right.
She is coming off of a win. She did have to use the bathroom throughout the entirety of it. So that, you know, these are all true statements here, all true facts. Jessica Andrade, as a former champ, I think that the heyday is well behind her at this point. And it, you know, if we're talking about like stock charts going up and down, like, hers is definitely on the decline. Lupi's it still has the potential to be on the upswing even farther than it currently is. You make a good point that having Andrade on the resume always looks good. And she actually has been used that way several times now at this point. I mean, like, you know, a couple of the women that she's faced are all, you know, kind of resume builders based on beating her. So if Lupi can do it, then definitely the feather in the cap that they're hoping that it will be. Andrade, she still can win. I mean, it's not like she's like completely out of it, but she's always been just kind of inconsistent, and that's been why I've been let down by her. So I want to believe that the skill set of Loopy the Olympian, no, I mean, or her sister or whatever. Either way, like she comes from good stock when it comes to her grappling pedigree. Hopefully that's going to be the thing that pushes her over the edge. If Andrade can land a heavy shot on her and get her off balance, maybe wobble her, there's potential there. But I want to ride with Loopy.
I'm taking Loopy.
All right, same here. Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. I like this fight as well. You know, Hooper has been a guy who, you want to talk about stocks raising. He's been consistently raising his over the recent years, and several consistent fights doing some really nice work there. Hernandez, on the other hand, is a dude who really never failure to launch is what I would say about Hernandez. You know, it was supposed to be one thing, turned out to be another thing. He's been kind of trying to figure it out ever since, to mixed results.
Yeah, Chase Hooper's a Chad. He's not going to let this decision merchant get by with a win here. And if Chase Hooper does end up going to decision with this dude, it is the biggest mistake that he could make because they will end up robbing him. And this is the exact type of dude that can walk away with a split decision and nobody will be able to answer how he won the fight. And he'll have a fucking win on his resume. That's happened like 4 different times with this dude, and every single time I can't tell you that he can win a fight, but he does, and I don't get it. It's the judges every single time. They treat him like he's some hot prospect, and he's not. Chase Hooper, please get this dude up out of here. Seriously.
I would agree with all of that. I mean, like I said, you know, Hernandez was supposed to be kind of like he was hot shotting himself almost. He was running his mouth early. Granted, he reined that in, you know, after the cowboy shit, but like it's never even regained the same momentum that it was supposed to have in the first place. So that all being said, Hooper has been doing some really impressive things. Hernandez has been doing some middle of the road things. This should be some this would be a great fight for Chase Hooper to finish. It would be really nice to see him have finishing ability, because I know that you've been pretty critical of his striking in the past. You know, obviously his wrestling is pretty good, but he doesn't finish there either. Go out and make this definitive. It'll be a very nice notch to move you even that much farther up the rankings, because, you know, get where he's at currently is all based on decision wins for the most part. And that's all well and good. You still get the wins, but make the flash happen as well. Now you have star power.
100%. I agree. I would love for him to finish this, and on the feet would be awesome. But we will definitely see. Hernandez is he's a little more durable than I would think somebody to get finished.
I was just going to say that to that point. Yeah, you know, he does have a decent chin. He can take a shot for sure. So it's going to
be. And he shoots when he's in trouble. So
exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a tall order for that to happen. But either way, by hook or by crook, make the finish happen. And this is going to be a really nice highlight, because you need the highlights at this point in his career. Chase Hooper, highlights are what he should be hunting a little bit, at least to an extent. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Always get the finish, but a highlight certainly does not hurt.
Yep.
All right. Well, get it done, Chase. Moving on down to the prelims. Yeah, I mean, who was? I think it was Bloomis who was saying that it's kind of wild seeing the name Edson Barbosa on the prelims. But if there was ever a marquee prelim fight, this is certainly it. And I love this fight. This is Edson Barbosa versus Drakkar Klose. Drakkar Klose's only detriment is the fact that he's been so inactive. But I mean, this dude is really legitimately pretty good. And he's had his moments where it hasn't gone his way, but I think that there's a lot more to him than he has like allowed himself to express by being inactive. But Barbosa is a veteran of the game and a dude who seems to be aging in reverse.
Yeah, I think Barbosa is somebody that I was tricked by originally because I thought he was a lot younger. And he was very impressive in the Yusuf Zalal performance. Not Zalal, I'm sorry, Sadiq Yusuf, excuse me. Very impressive in that performance. And I don't know, Drakkar Klose being 37 doesn't actually give me much hope for him, because he did have a good win streak, and then he got finished by Yoel Alvarez. But I don't know. I would like to believe that his winning skill set should be able to shine through here, because he's been doing it at an old age decently long enough, and he's not active where it's like he's got just momentum in his role. He just knows how to win on the scorecards. So I think he'll be able to go ahead and do that against Edson Barbosa.
Yeah, I mean his wrestling is pretty solid. If he leans on that and can get Barbosa down at this stage in Barbosa's career, I do think that there's potential for that to be a deciding factor. More so than it might have been in years past, I would say. On the feet, Barbosa is extremely technically proficient, but also he's a little rigid. I think that Jakar Klose's movement is probably going to be more in his favor, even at 37 versus 39. I still think that he's going to be the more active, lighter on his feet fighter. So if he's able to cut at odd angles, try to go for takedowns that are a little bit untelegraphed, do it in a way that's a little bit catching Barbosa off guard. There's some potential there. If it stays on the feet, I would say Barbosa has his best shot in that. But even within that, I would be slightly skeptical. I mean, Barbosa just does seem like another one of these guys that, even though he is still not completely out of the game, it's his time has kind of passed a little bit, and Drakkar Klose is a little bit more solidly rooted currently to get a win.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I'm taking Jakar.
Yeah, I mean it hurts my feelings to have to say that. Yeah, I will too, though. I will too. I always think back to the Lerone Murphy fight when it comes to Edson Barbosa, and just how much that fight made me inspired by Lerone Murphy, and that in this fight kind of signals the opposite direction. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like you got one guy who really like rose his stock tremendously off of that. You've got an older guy who's probably closer to the tail end of his career at this point. You gotta go with the logic on that one.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, Jakar, I just hope you get it done and don't make me look stupid.
Yeah, same. And I wouldn't be mad at it though, because I am a fan of Edson Barbosa for a long time. So, he will always have one of the best knockouts in history.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving on. Why is Brian Battle this far down on the card? I wonder. But Brian Battle versus Nursultan Ruziboev. This seems like it could be a main card fight easily.
It definitely could be if it was any other card, I guess. I mean, I think there's still some shuffling around to be done because I don't think they're going to open the card with the tough guys, but I could be wrong. But this one here is interesting. I don't know who I want to side with, but I'm not necessarily somebody who loves Brian Battle. Like, Brian Battle is good, but not somebody that I've necessarily fallen in love with. But Ruziboev, I've been rooting for him since I've seen him join the UFC. So I think I'm going to put my eggs in his basket this time.
All right, I'm with that. I am more of a fan of Brian Battle, I would say. I've been following his career since Tough. I think that he has a solid view, like outlook on the sport, and I think that he conducts himself pretty well outside of the cage, but that does not matter inside of the cage. Inside of the cage, I think that there have been a couple of times where the armor has shown itself to have cracks in it. So a fighter like Ruziboev could be the guy to exploit that. I do think that he is a very tough guy, though, and I
Hmm.
think that he might be able to out tough Ruziboev, if that makes sense. Um, Ruziboev, not somebody who specifically jumps out to me as like the most technically savvy guy. Like, I mean, he's not. I'm
Yeah.
not saying he's bad or anything like that, but like, I like he's not somebody that I'm like, oh, well, he can go in and just like pull off a takedown, and then all of a sudden, Battle's never going to see it coming. Like, I would think that Ruziboev is probably going to be clinching a ton in this fight, trying to neutralize the movement of Brian Battle, neutralize the striking, and then maybe get the takedown after that. That would at least be what like my thought process is. So if that's the case, then I will go with Brian Battle based on the fact that I think that he can overcome that. If Ruziboev proves me wrong with some stuff that I'm not anticipating, that wouldn't be out of left field. I think that there's maybe more that could be in the bag of tricks than I'm giving him credit for.
Yeah, we will definitely see. I mean, Ruziboev's only loss as of right now that was, something to take note was against Joaquin Buckley, and he went up to challenge, Kamaru Usman. So, and we thought at the time he would have been the dark horse of the division. So, is Ruziboev somebody that's better than we had once believed? We are going to find out for real.
Yeah, this is a great fight to determine that. And if he does win this fight in a way that's definitive, maybe unexpected, whatever, then I will certainly be giving him his praise thereafter. In the meantime, I will, in my opinion, maybe rest a little bit on what I know, the devil, kind of thing when it comes to Bryan Battle. He does have pretty solid fundamentals in the way that he navigates fights. I'll go with that. So
Okay.
I'll take Brian on this one and not be mad when I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll take Ruzaboev.
All right, there you go. And to round out the known fighters already in the organization, Carini Silva versus Diani Barbosa. Really don't care too much about this fight. Do you have an opinion?
I think Karini's going to win because she's actually a decent prospect who's been on the way up. Dione Barbosa is just another Brazilian girl, so whatever.
All right, I'll go with that. I mean, I really I know both of them. I've seen both of them fight. Neither of them has given me much of an impression that there's something more to latch on to. I've seen both of them lose. I've seen both of them win at this point. Somebody go out there and impress me, and I'll have an opinion thereafter.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, I mean, I'll go with Carini Silva. Why not?
Hell yeah.
All right, and then when it comes to the two finals of the Ultimate Fighter, we've got Alibi Idris versus Joseph Morales. Joseph Morales, of course, the former UFC fighter who's coming back for a second go of it.
And they have no picture for him. Hilarious.
They've got no picture for either guys. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Morales, you'd think might have had a picture, but of course, ESPN, they don't go that far back.
Right.
But and then in the other fight, it's Rodrigo says Nando. And then we're going to find out tomorrow night who he's going to be fighting. So, I mean, at least for the one fight that we do know about, I know that you're a big Alibi fan. Do you think that what you saw from Joseph Morales in the last episode changes your mind at all?
No, because Joseph Morales shouldn't have even won that fight. I thought that was slight robbery. I thought, what was his name?
Imanol.
Imanol. I thought he definitely won that fight, and Joseph Morales is just gonna lose to Alibi. That's the unfortunate case here. Is Alibi is 10 times better. He's younger. He's more hungry. He's a champion from another promotion, and he's making his jump over in a very realistic way to start his career. Now we unfortunately know that the tough people are not the cream of the crop, but Alibi still has possibilities here. He's still undefeated. He's still young. Potential is endless. Joseph Morales, though, we've already seen that he couldn't even compete back then. What are we expecting now when the game is more evolved? So
yeah, I think most of that tracks. I mean, you're definitely like on this tip of like the tough guys being like a lesser class. I would say that the tough
they are now. I mean, name somebody that is more recently somebody that's like higher level that's come from tough.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Like the older class of tough fighters certainly have had more success. But my point with saying that is that like when it comes to the Ultimate Fighter, you're basically just getting an extended version of the Contender series. So you're seeing
It's
like
different, dude.
we're seeing the early stages of some of these guys. So like Alibi could be one of those guys. I thought Imanol was going to win it. Honestly, what my note was going to be is that I really was hoping that Alibi versus Imanol was going to be the finale because I thought that was going to be the most entertaining fight we could have gotten. So this being the fight that we are getting, yeah, we could be seeing Alibi starting out, the earlier stages of a promising career. My point, I guess, is just that I wouldn't count them out as like a lesser class when it's this type of fighter. Like maybe the second try guys, you have a more of a case there because it is like, yeah, they're coming back, trying again to regain glory and, mixed results to that. But when it comes to some of these, the like fresher crop of guys that are like at that early stage, then we're still seeing what they're potentially going to blossom into over time. So hopefully Alibi is one of those guys.
No, 100%. I agree.
And as far as the other fight goes, we saw Rodrigo a couple of times now. I want to say that Rodrigo is a tough fighter who, no pun intended there, a gritty fighter who I believe has like elements of his game that should be able to be beaten. It's just not by the guys that he's been fighting currently. We're going to have to see who ends up winning the fight tomorrow night. Of course, I believe that that's Dixon versus
Dixon and Daniil.
yeah, and Daniil, yeah, the Ukrainian that who has been my dark horse champion for this whole thing. So I am rooting for the Ukrainian Daniil.
I have Dixon, honestly.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised but we'll see, because honestly, I thought that Jeff, the other American guy, was somebody who we might have seen getting the victory, and he ended up not being able to do that. So that being said, whoever ends up winning that fight, do they have a good shot against Rodrigo? Hard to say.
I think Dixon does a lot.
All right.
I think if he wins against Daniil, he will win the finals.
All right. Well, then there you have it. I'm rooting for Daniil, and I hope that he's able to do it. Does he have a shot against Rodrigo? If he wins against Dixon, then yeah, I would say so. It will certainly be at least competitive, because I hate to say it, because like there are a couple of his people who knew Rodrigo were in my chat for the watch along, and I was like, I wasn't able to like root for him as hard as I wanted to, because I didn't see all that much out of him that like was super impressive, aside from him being very tough and willing to go in for takedowns and take a shot to get the takedown.
I think if Dixon wins, he will beat Rodrigo. If Daniil beats Dixon, I think he will lose to Rodrigo. That is my assessment right there.
All right. Well, I have been rooting for Daniil throughout this entire thing. So I'm saying if he wins this entire thing, and then goes on to become a champion in the organization. How you like that?
I would love it. I would love it.
Well, we're going to find out what happens on all of these fights coming up on Saturday. Of course, we're going to find out tomorrow about the Ultimate Fighter. So
and Contender Series.
And the Contender Series starts. It's a beautiful time of year. This is my favorite time of year. I love the Contender Series so much. But you can watch us watching these fights, hanging out with us for the fights, of course. You can find me at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
Anytime that the UFC has something going on, whether it be, a UFC numbered premium event that is going to end up going down on Paramount, or that is the Contender Series, or that is the Ultimate Fighter, you will find me watching those on youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And then on Twitter, of course, sometimes I keep you guys updated with what I'm doing, x.com/@CreativePartners. So, yep.
There you go. I am at YamaShow on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Follow me, follow Chase. Keep up with both of us. Of course, new video is out on the channel. Just came out this morning about the new Paramount Plus deal for the UFC. If you want some more background information on that, give the video a watch. Give it a like if you enjoy it. Hopefully some new stuff coming out. Keep an eye out for later in the week when the Smashing Machine documentary review will be edited and put out in video form. And until then, have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.
Change.